Well, well, well. Welcome in, everybody. Ben and Woods, 97.3 The Fan. Lovely, lovely, lovely to be here with all of you. Thank you for watching on YouTube, listening on the FM dial. Comes in crystal clear in your car. On the Odyssey app, you can watch us on Twitch as well. There's a lot of ways to get Ben and Woods in you. Okay? A lot of ways. I'm Woodsy. That's Paul Reindl. He's our executive producer, imaging director. Good morning, Paulie.
What a morning.
What a morning, indeed. Benjamin Higgins, your friendly neighborhood sports anchor, also our Secretary of Homeland Exploration, though you have not explored the homeland in a while.
No, you've been doing more exploration
I have.
than I have recently.
I just realized, too, I'm out of town. I don't think I'll miss any work in October, but I am going out of town to Vegas. And then in November, I'm going to be off a couple of days. And then, we'll be off for Thanksgiving. And then December, we got the Christmas show. And then we're out of here.
I'm just going to keep grinding then.
Good for you.
I'm going to change the reputation, the
good
narrative.
For you. Okay.
Flipping the narrative here.
I'm fine to be vacation boy. That's fine by me. You guys, I'll be vacation boy.
I'll say it's not the worst thing.
It's not.
To have a reputation for liking to take a little time off.
Well, I mean, it's tough because I do feel not 100% after a long trip, and flights. They're germy. Bo is under the weather right now. It's just the hotels and everything. We're walking down to get on the train, and he's running his hand along the rail, and I'm like, buddy, please don't touch that thing. Why? I'm like, because people have scratched their buttholes and then they put their hand on it. So. And then you suck your thumb, and now you have somebody's butthole on your finger, and you put it into your mouth. So that's the reason why.
And then you hold my hand.
And then you hold my hand, and then I bite my nail.
Does it register with him when you break it down like that?
Bro, I'm walking around Chicago so in my front pocket is my phone, my back right is my wallet, in my zip, like this zip sleeve here, a little roll of Tums, because I always have to have Tums, and then sticking out is a big thing of wet ones that every 10 minutes I'm like, come here, wipe your hands clean. It's repulsive. So now I'm a little scratchy. I feel great. I feel fantastic.
It's interesting that you protect the Tums with the
zipper
in the
yeah.
front.
Everything else can go.
A pickpocket can go ahead and take your wallet if they'd like. Oh, you do have a zip up in the back, too.
Yeah. I zip the wallet in there. And it also, sometimes when you sit, it'll kind of lean out, so I make sure to zip that in. But yeah, I mean, so he's a little bit under the weather. That's kind of the dangers of traveling these days. Not that you can't get sick at home. You absolutely can. But the other danger of traveling is coming home and having a wife who will drag you online without even a hint of decorum. She'll just go to Twitter and just drag you online. So I'm lying in bed last night. I'm watching the Padres game. And sure enough, I look at Twitter and I see this tweet, or this X. It says, why don't we all just go ahead and unpack as soon as we get home from a trip? That'd be great, thanks. I thought to myself, I'm right back here. You can just come.
Why do you think that's directed at you and not just a general comment toward everybody?
Probably
like helpful life advice for everyone.
Because I know her.
Did you not unpack when you got back from your trip?
I didn't.
Okay, so now you feel like maybe it is directed at you.
Yeah, now I know for sure it's directed at me. Are you guys?
Have you unpacked yet?
She did it yesterday.
Ooh.
She got so sick of it that she just did it. And passive aggressively left the stuff on my bed that weren't clothes, like headphones, a belt, some shoes on the bed,
your hair dryer,
for me to put away. And so I walked in and I go, guess she's had enough. I guess she's had enough of me. And so I dragged her back. I said, well, listen, I had to coach T-ball right when I got home. I had a few hours to kill. But I was game planning for the T-ball practice. You have to do that, right? You got to set your intentions, and I needed a little bit of rest. I was exhausted. So didn't have time today between work and grocery shopping and T-ball admin. Had to go pick up the uniforms, cook dinner, bathed one of the children, and then I had to prep for San Diego's #1 morning show, Men 2554, was what I wrote her back.
Damn right.
Kind of shut her down a little bit. But
busy day.
Are you guys
busy day?
Are you guys immediate unpackers?
Oh, I'm Team Hannah on this one.
Are you? Son of a bitch. I get no help, man.
I unpack within 5 minutes of walking through my door.
Really?
Yeah, first thing I do when I get back from a trip, I hate having
that's
the
psychotic.
suitcase sitting outside.
Mine was open on the ground. Everything's still in there.
Yeah. Shelly's the other way. She'll live out of the suitcase after a trip for several days and just leave it all in there.
I mean, I already have to open it to get like toiletries and stuff
Sure.
out of there. So I just, at the very least, will throw everything in the dirty clothes hamper.
Question. Here's another thing I do, and I know it drives her mad. So you've got your stuff in the suitcase, and then you have your DOP kit, right? Do you want to say something?
Well, I mean, I am impressed by all the things that you listed off that you did yesterday.
Yeah,
It was a busy day. Legitimately.
Legitimately.
In my experience, you were gone for 3 days?
5 days.
5 days.
Yeah.
5 days. Even on a 5-day trip, in my experience, unpacking, when the majority of what you're unpacking is worn and dirty clothes, is like less than a 2-minute process.
You're probably right. I just didn't want to do it. And then I'll say this. We're all married.
He's not probably right. He's right.
Yeah, he's right. You're all married. We're all married. There might have been something deep inside
you don't
me.
have to carve out, all right, I need
In an
5
hour.
hours to unpack. I mean, can I work it around my T-ball and my show prep? It's 2 minutes. There's 23 hours and 58 other minutes in the day to do everything else. And 2 minutes it takes to unpack the suitcase.
There might be something psychological knowing how much she hates it, leaving it open. To see how far can I push
Then
this?
perhaps you are the problem.
Maybe I am the problem. So the other thing I do, and I know it drives her bananas, Paulie, Benjamin, when you come home from a trip, you guys are immediate unpackers. But you take that DOP kit out of your suitcase and you bring it into the bathroom.
Right.
Do you put all that stuff away immediately?
Yes, I do.
God dang it. Now that's one. The suitcase is usually done within, I'll say in my house, by me, 24 hours. Okay, about 24 hours is about as much as I can handle. I unpack. The DOP kit, I'll live out of that thing for 3 weeks. Just sitting on my counter, reaching in, getting my razor, reaching in, getting my eye bag
And
cream.
then you put it back in.
Yes.
At the end. You don't put it back, even after you use it, you don't put it back where it usually goes at that point?
Correct.
I will say you use a significantly more amount of products
Correct.
than I use.
Correct.
So maybe
Paulie,
that
I
would change.
use a significant more amount of products than all of our wives combined.
Yeah.
No one in the world. I've never shown you guys what I take vitamin-wise on a daily basis. You'd soil yourself if you knew how many vitamins I take on a daily basis.
This is a foreplay in and of itself.
Yeah.
How many pills do you take each day?
Okay.
Because as you get older, they just start to accumulate.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
you just get into the habit and you take them. And at some point it becomes shocking the number of pills you take every day. I mean, I understand now. You always look at those, TV shows where the old people have the giant pill carriers. And like, how did you get to the point where you had to take 17 pills every single day just to live? But I'm getting there. It sounds like you're getting there as well. We're in our 40s.
Dude.
I'm at 5.
5 pills?
I take 5 pills every single day.
Child's play. Do you take any
I
vitamins?
don't. No, not regularly.
Okay. You don't have like a multivitamin you take every day?
Well, I have gummies.
Okay. Yeah, I like those.
I don't
Not marijuana gummies. Gummies.
Like
those are
vitamin-
different gummies.
like Men's Health vitamin
Flintstones. You don't do the
gummies.
chewables.
Flintstones.
Flintstones vitamins still.
I wish.
Those were delicious.
And then I don't take any daily pills.
Okay, so I take a multivitamin. I take vitamin C gummies every day. I take beef liver supplements.
Beef liver supplements.
Yeah.
Beef liver.
Very, very, very good for you.
Iron,
good for your
what are we
blood.
looking
Yes.
for
I take,
here?
I
Okay.
take magnesium supplement. I take
That's good also in golf clubs, I think.
yes. I take carnitine.
Never even heard of that.
It's L-carnitine, L-theanine. I take resveratrol. I can never say the name of them. I take a little tiny little pill for my cholesterol. I mean, I'm leaving out probably a dozen.
Yeah.
It's probably 20 pills a shot, and then you add in all the gummies too, a day, which is nuts to me. But I operate, and I don't take all those with me when I travel or anything like that. But they're all on the same, along with my DOP kit and all my stuff in it. And then Paulie's right. I have a lot of product.
Do you pre-plan, like I've got a case?
Oh, yeah.
Every week I'll put the
every
days
Sunday
in,
night.
just
drop. It takes about
organize
45 minutes in my house.
You do it the same night every week.
Oh, I do fish oil.
Sunday night.
Sunday night.
So I do all 7, but then I do the 8th one to take right then. So my days move once every week because it's actually an 8-day process.
No, I load them up.
Yeah.
Then I crack Sunday open, pour them in my hand, and go right down the hatch. But no, I'll live out of that DOP kit, you guys, until Hannah and I go to Vegas mid-October. I'll be out of that DOP kit until then, probably, where I reload. A couple things will find their way back into the drawer, but I'll live out of that. I'm like a nomad.
And then you'll feel like, hey, winning, I don't have to pack fully because I'm going on a trip again and I'm already partially packed.
That's exactly right. I don't know what it is in me. I don't consider myself lazy. It's not on my priority list, right? In the grand scheme of life, other things take priority. And for her, I mean, she starts quivering the moment the suitcase rolls in the house. She's like, unpack it.
All right, that's a little bit on her, just to let things that don't need to be stressed about.
She said,
they don't have to be stressed about.
She said this morning, quote, she said, it reeked of body odor and nut butter, was a quote from my wife. I said,
sometimes the same thing.
I smelled like the W in Chicago. Like I wasn't out drinking, blasting cigs, and rubbing up against, ladies of the night. I said, really? She said it was repugnant, and it was giving off an odor of, quote, body odor and nut butter. I said, all right, well, she got it done. She does all the laundry in the house, and she did it. And so thank you, babe, for that. But, yeah, there you go. So I have no support in here, is what you're saying.
We're immediate
Zero.
unpackers here. The chat seems to be divided, as always, on the YouTube stream between the immediate unpackers and the people who live out of their suitcase till the next vacation. So, and it seems like it's not divided. It's not a battle of the sexes either.
Jocelyn wants to know, how am I sick all the time with all those darn pills? I'm not sick. Since I've had kids,
touching too many railings.
Yeah, licking railings. The funny thing is Lord Health, my wife, who would literally, you guys remember how mad she used to get at me when I would get sick, like livid, like I was doing it on purpose to get out of changing diapers and stuff. Remember when I had strep throat and she was like furious at me, like I went and was licking the soles of people's feet, and I was like, I didn't mean to get sick. I don't want to be sick. She's been the one that gets sick all the time. My kids, being around them, have boosted my immunity. I feel great. I just take a lot of vitamins.
All right, we got a big show planned. Padres did win their 5th in a row, but if you missed it overnight,
I would say we don't have a big show planned because we didn't plan for any.
That's a good
of
point.
it.
No.
But it was thrust upon us by yet another local writer covering the team. Last week it was Kevin Acey, and talk of clubhouse leadership and Manny Machado. Overnight, Dennis Lin and The Athletic dropping a piece about the Padres' failings, and specifically, he has boiled down the reason why the Padres are failing, and it's because they don't unpack immediately when they get back from road trips.
It's probably part of it.
It really is. It comes down to that. No, it's a lot about the general manager, AJ Preller, and we will be talking about that this morning, probably right after our Padres wrap-up here at the bottom of the hour.
To be honest with you, I'd like to go through the entire roster, and we take our guesses on who unpacks right away. I have some ideas. I really, really do. Manny, instant unpacker. Instant.
Yeah. I think Xander unpacks.
Xander is an instant unpacker.
Yeah.
Xander goes to the hotel, opens his suitcase, and puts his underwear and socks in the drawers.
Oh, my goodness.
I always plan to do it. First day I get there, I've never done it one time. I always take running shoes with me, too, like I'm going to work out in the hotel.
I have a 3-day rule. If I'm going to be there less than 3 days, it all stays in the suitcase. If I'm going to be there 3 or more, it can go into the drawers in the hotel
This
room.
is literally one of my favorite conversations we've ever had. And I would like to go through the roster at some point. We can do that.
All right. We will get to all of that. If you haven't had the piece, we will read excerpts from it. I know not everyone subscribes to The Athletic, even though you probably should.
Minus the probably.
Really good stuff from Dennis Lin and Ken Rosenthal this morning. So we'll read some of those excerpts. Get to another Padres win. It's rare that a team is both playing its best baseball of the season and the constant subject of what's wrong with the organization at the exact same time. But that's what we've got with your San Diego Padres right now. We'll also have the voice of the Padres, Jesse Agler, join us as he does each and every Tuesday. It's an Incorporator Tuesday at 8:35. All of our regular features as well. Let's get going. It's Tuesday. Feels like we're all fired up today. It's Ben and Woods and Paul on San Diego's #1 sports station. Let's get our first check of traffic right now here on 97.3 The Fan.
Can you name the movie?
I was just trying to think of that. Theme is 80s movie music.
It was a movie your parents definitely loved in the 80s because all parents loved this movie and its soundtrack in the 80s. Every parent.
I'm at a loss.
The Big Chill.
The Big Chill.
Remember that movie? Did you ever see it?
I don't think I ever did.
It was a little...
Yeah, but I remember, that was big
it was
for
adults.
people older than me.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Like Terms of Endearment,
Yes,
The Big
yes,
Chill.
The Big Chill.
Things
Really-
my parents liked back then.
Really in their wheelhouse. But my parents, they wore this tape out. The Big Chill. It's got Marvin Gaye. It's got, and it's basically what your boy was groomed on in the car, driving anywhere we went. The Big Chill soundtrack. So it reminded me of my parents when I was thinking about it yesterday. Shout out to my parents if they're listening right now.
Probably are.
That was Procol Harum.
Oh.
Procol Harum, and that's whiter shade of pale.
I think before we do anything else, we really should offer our best wishes to Padres owner Peter Seidler.
100%.
The Padres issued a statement at 10:01 yesterday, right after our show.
10:01.
So we didn't get to address it yesterday. Everyone else has had 24 hours to absorb it, but we would wish Peter the best of wishes on his recovery. Just dealing with some health issues and a medical procedure. Did say he will not be with the team, able to attend games for the rest of the season. But
I'm going to read it?
Yeah, go ahead.
I'll just read it. This is the official statement from yesterday from Padres chairman Peter Seidler. To our loyal and passionate Padre fans, I thank you from the bottom of my heart for your amazing support this season. Your love for the Padres and our players is both motivating and humbling. We have the best fans in baseball. I want to share a brief personal update. Last month, I underwent a medical procedure. I'm now on the road to recovery. I'm grateful for the dedicated medical care that I have received and the loving support of my family. Although I can't be with you at the ballpark for our remaining games this season, I am watching them all. I look forward to making some noise together again in 2024 and celebrating the 20th anniversary of our beautiful ballpark. Peter Seidler, Padres chairman.
And the fans have responded in supporting Peter by setting a new attendance record at Petco Park. Last night, another sellout, 42,000 plus, going over 3 million. Not even counting the 2 games in Mexico City, which were Padres home games. But this is just the Petco Park attendance record now being broken with 5 more games still to go in the regular season. So certainly there's been a love affair between the Padres and their owner. What remains to be seen is what's going to happen with the front office, the manager, and the players this coming off season after what is undoubtedly been a very strange and disappointing year. It's really unlike anything that we've seen. And, I don't know, what Peter's status is going to be, but, he's the one who's going to ultimately have to either make or sign off on a couple of big decisions here at the end of the year. And, I can't, I imagine it sounds like he still, has his finger on what's going on with his team, even if he can't be there. But, it could impact the offseason for the San Diego Padres going forward. We'll see how that all plays out. But, I've seen teams collapse. It happens all the time in baseball. I've seen it happen to the Padres. We saw it happen a couple of years ago. They didn't finish strong like this. Teams that collapse, that are just loaded with problems, rarely play their best baseball at the end when they've been eliminated. You don't see this very often. It's just another very strange, hard to explain facet of this San Diego Padres season that's been different. They've had unsuccessful seasons. They've had unsuccessful seasons under AJ Preller. This one's been different, though, than some of the other ones. It's hard to compare it to any other baseball season I've really ever watched in my life.
No doubt. There's no doubt about it. I said it yesterday. I stand by it. I did watch most of the game last night and fell asleep pretty early. And honestly was really surprised to wake up to see that they had only won by 2. They were comfortably in the lead. Luis Garcia is the frost is off the pumpkin, I guess, there. Tom Cosgrove, everyone gave up a couple runs. We'll get into the recap of the game. But, yeah, it's really important to give this article by Dennis Lynn and Ken Rosenthal as much time as we need to today and to hear from the Tier 1s as well. And, look, there's a lot of it in there that we knew. There's a lot of it in there that we didn't know. There's a lot of it in there that we suspected that is now confirmed. specifically the relationship between Bob Melvin and AJ Preller. That was something that jumped off the page to me. We'll read that for you. We'll break this thing down and probably going to be spending the majority of our time on it today, I would imagine. There were 2 football games last night, neither of which really blew my hair back. To be honest with you, there was a pretty gruesome injury that we can discuss as well. We've got a really funny don't do this that I almost did today, and I'm going to kind of do it anyway. You guys are really going to get a kick out of that. But
you're an idiot.
Yeah, I'm an idiot. I'm 100% an idiot. There's no question. If I had run with this today, I would have looked like the biggest jackass on the planet. Again.
I should have let you.
You should have let me. Let me next time.
We also have giveaways every hour. Let's start at 7:28, and then every hour on the hour, we're going to give away some different prizes. We've got Bellator MMA tickets for the big event coming to Pechanga Arena on October 7th. We've got more of the Power Trip Festival passes. You were telling me those are hot commodities coming to Indio here next month. And we got Padres tickets to give away here for the final homestand of the season. So listen in at 7:29, 8:29, and 9:29. Every hour for a different giveaway on Ben and Woods this morning. Get to our Padres wrap-up quickly, and then we'll get into what Dennis Lynn and Ken Rosenthal wrote about the team. Coming up next here with Ben and Woods on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. This hour on 97.3 The Fan is brought to you by Ashley Furniture. Fall is almost here, and at Ashley, seasonal decorating is a breeze. Snuggle up on a sectional or ultra-modern sofa. Gather outside with a new fire pit or conversation set. Ashley has everything you'll need. Shop in-store or visit ashley.com today. All right, Padres did win again yesterday. Make it 5 in a row. They are hot. They got Blake Snell on the mound tonight going for 6. We'll briefly touch on last night's game, which was another offensive explosion, double digits for back-to-back games. But then we will dive into an Athletic article that the headline just should raise alarm bells on its own. The Padres' disastrous season reveals shaky foundation and institutional failure. It's coming up after this check of traffic on 97.3 The Fan.
From the premier Buick GMC of Carlsbad Traffic Center, part of the Premier Auto Family, here's Kelly Denick.
Traffic is sponsored by Valvoline Instant Drive-Thru Oil Change, your 15-minute instant drive-thru oil change. At northbound 5 has been a challenge this morning, guys. Got this accident just past Nobel. It's over the right shoulder, but looks like fire crews have got that slow lane blocked, so just watch out for a little activity there. Further up, we're seeing an improvement in speeds. They cleared that accident right before Leucadia pushed everything over to the right shoulder. Stop by any of the 30 San Diego Valvoline Instant Drive-Thru Oil Change centers. You don't have to get out of your car, and it usually only takes 15 minutes or less. Visit SoCalOilChange.com for discounts and locations nearest you. Valvoline Oil Change centers are open 7 days a week. I'm Kelly Danick with Ben & Woods, San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan.
I love winning, man. I love winning. You hear what I'm saying? It's like better than losing.
Just when I thought I was out, they pulled me back in.
Miss any of yesterday's Padres game?
Did you catch a game last night?
Well, we've got you covered.
Thank you.
It's the Padres Wrap-Up with Ben and Woods.
Go! It's our house right here, baby.
Presented by Hamul Casino. With thrilling slots and tables and all the best rewards, Hamul Casino has all the fun you're looking for. Hamul Casino, fun above all else. On 97.3 The Fan.
That is the ball game, and that is a winner. It's about damn time. 2 on and 2 out for Brendan Rodgers. Right-handed batter lines the first pitch down the left field line. That'll get down for a base hit. Soto's got to play it on a hop. Montero rounding third. He'll come in to score. It's an unearned run and a 1-0 Rocky lead in the second. 0-1. Cooper hits it hard in the air to deep center. Doyle's tracking it, heading back at the wall. Gonna go! 2-run homer. Koopaloop. Padres hop right in front now. It's 2-1 in the second inning. 2-2. Tovar hits it in the air down the left field line. That's going to be a fair ball. That's going to go all the way to the wall. Soto picks it up on the warning track. Blackman motoring around third. He's on his way. Bogart's relay to the plate is not in time. And behind the plate, Tovar goes into third base. Tie game 2-2 here in the third inning. And that is Tovar's team-leading 34th double of the season. 1-1 to Jones. Hit on the ground sharply through the left side and a base hit. Tovar will come in and score from third base. An RBI single for Nolan Jones. And the Rockies are back in front. It's 3-2. Here's the 1-0. Campusano hits it in the air to deep left. Jones is back. Gonna watch. Gonna go! 3-run homer, Luis Campusano. Padres are back in front. It's 5-3 here in the third. Here's Eggy Rosario. Swings at the first pitch, hammers it in the air. Deep to left field. Jones is back. This one gonna go! Third of the night for the Padres. It's been Cooper and Campusano, and now Eggy Rosario second in the big leagues. 6-3 San Diego. 1-2 hit hard up the middle. That's on the ground into center field and a base hit. Batten is rounding third. He'll come in to score. Another one. Eggy Rosario, an RBI single. And an 8-3 Padre lead in the fifth. Toddy runs, pitches low, throw down to second base, into center field. Bogarts was on his way home anyway. He's going to score as Fernando goes to third base, and it's 10-3. Soto hard hit grounder through the right side and a base hit. Tatis will come in to score. It is 11-3 and the 100th RBI of the season for Juan Soto. Here's the 1-0. Swing and a fly ball down the right field line, deep. Tatis into the corner, in front of the porch, on the track. He makes the catch, and the ball game is over. Brenton Doyle missed, not by much, but he missed. And Josh Hader collects his 30th save of the year. The Padres have won 5 straight. A little bit of a wacky one here tonight at Petco as the Padres beat the Rockies 11-9.
We're just in a better place. You know, we've run one of those things where we haven't been able to get to all year, where it just feels good. You feel like you're going to score. You feel like you can add on. There's a looseness to how we're playing right now. And that's why we've played our best baseball here the last 5 games or so. Actually, the last 7 or 8.
Yeah, exactly what the Padres needed, 5 months ago. They finally have found their looseness, just going out and playing and hitting and winning. And, of course, it comes at a point in the season where it really doesn't matter. The 11-9 win, their 5th in a row, it did get them within 5.5 games of the wild card spot in the National League. But with 11 games to go, it really is too big of a mountain to climb to think the Padres, even if they won every game this season, and even if they got a good deal of help, you got to figure one of those teams is going to win enough games that it would keep the Padres out of the playoffs. So, as much as I'd like to keep some hope going and enjoy the wins, I don't know that there's really any hope there.
No, it'd be quite a story. That's for sure. It'd be quite a story. But like you said, you need a ton of help. And then once you got there, you'd have a pretty depleted roster as far as starting pitching goes. But that wouldn't be any different than any other playoff appearance we've had in the last few years either, Ben. So great win last night. Way to come back. Got down early, came back, and then kind of let them back in it. Bullpen faltered a little bit there, and but yeah, I think anybody wanting to wrap up last night's game. There it is. There's your game wrap-up. That's 5 straight for the first time this season. Keep it rolling. But I think everybody wants to get to this piece that dropped.
Absolutely. And while Manny Machado was the guy in the targets last week in the Union Tribune, this morning in a piece that dropped around 2 a.m., so if you haven't seen it yet, that's probably why. It's definitely AJ Preller's turn in the crosshairs to analyze what went wrong this season and what measure of responsibility a general manager who has been around for almost a decade now is, responsible for the culture and the failings of this San Diego Padres team, the institutional failure, as it's referred to multiple times during this piece by Dennis Lin and Ken Rosenthal. But it's also not just as simple as saying, well, AJ Preller is just a disastrously bad general manager who doesn't know what he's doing and he needs to go. The piece also includes some balance of, people who praise AJ for his work ethic, his tireless dedication to trying to make the Padres a better team, but it also is counterpointed with, former staffers and current players who are quoted anonymously who say there's too much meddling, it creates for a toxic environment, it's hard to have success when, AJ is constantly, sticking his finger into, the day-to-day operations of a baseball team.
Not only that is it hard to have success when someone's meddling. This is what got me. It's hard to continue to root for the guys and root for the team for which you're a coach or even a player when you feel like the guys behind you, like the general manager and his staff, are constantly jumping on and off the boat for you, right? It's the paranoid culture, the looking over your shoulder type scene, and that to me was like, wow, okay. So, and we're talking even with coaches. The coach is like, am I really cemented here? And I understand that no coach is ever safe, no matter really who you are. There's a handful of outliers, Ben, guys that have earned their way, that they'll tell you when it's their time to go. Nick Saban, people like that. Like Nick Saban calls his own shots. He says, I'm done when I'm done. So I think there's some of that needs to be taken into account. But it's hard to get behind an organization when you don't know if you're going to be jettisoned out as soon as the season's over and blamed for a lot of stuff that maybe you really didn't have anything to do with. Maybe you were just following orders. So there's a lot of that stuff in here. And it just, the bottom line is, doesn't seem like a real great place to work.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, it did. Last year it was okay. When they're winning and everyone is feeling good, it seems like it's all right. The problem is, and as we've seen it over and over again.
Hold on one second, because there was another piece written about the same thing the year before. So last year seems to be a bit of an outlier.
Well, yeah, I mean, the thing is, and you know, it's an emotional, moody organization. When things are going well and everyone's winning, there really aren't that many problems. But when things start to go poorly, that's when paranoia sets in and things go off the rails. No one's paranoid about a team that's winning. Right now, I'm sure things feel very good. 5 wins in a row, and, you know, hey, we don't need to say anything.
I don't know. I think it's the nature, at least of fandom. I sent you guys a couple tweets last night from other fan bases that are winning. I watched a guy on Twitter absolutely melt down about the Houston Astros, and I watched a guy on Twitter melt down about the Texas Rangers. I sent it to you guys. The exact same stuff we see. Different area codes, same old S, right? That being said, Ben, the winning is really the outlier in the losing. You know what I'm saying? Like there hasn't been as much winning as there has been losing here in AJ's tenure. So it really does a good job. If you haven't read the piece yet, I'm trying to think of the best place to start. Should we just kind of go in order of how it opens?
Sure. Okay. I mean, like in the first section, I mean, let's read a couple of the quotes. Dennis Lin talks to current and former players. They mostly are anonymous quotes. One former player says, "You can argue he's one of the best talent evaluators ever in the game, AJ Preller, but just because you can evaluate talent doesn't mean you know how to handle people."
Sure.
Another current player says, "I really do think the same group would come back next year and be the complete opposite, win 100 games." There's a lot of back and forth here that AJ Preller does some things well, other things, though, especially the kind of the handling of the people, the day-to-day running of the team.
I mean, in the first like 4 paragraphs, a player calls it an institutional failure.
Right. Yeah. Toxic. One former staffer said it's the most toxic. Again, we talked a little bit about this yesterday. By all accounts, and it's even mentioned in this piece, the guys like each other. That's the weird thing. Like, that's the thing that I'm really having a hard time wrapping my head around. The guys all seemingly get along. Now, does it mean they're all pulling on the same rope and any other tired-ass sports radio trope you want to use? Probably not. It seems like we have a lot of me guys. And when you have a lot of me guys, which, by the way, is okay, as long as you have some of the other guys to kind of balance it out, and seemingly we don't. But the guy that put that together was AJ Preller. He brought in those guys, and, you know, from there, that's when you need to foster a culture. He's tried a couple of different things we can talk about culture-wise. Those have blown up spectacularly. His relationship with Bob Melvin is mentioned. There's a really good section about him and Bob Melvin, which kind of confirms some of the things that I've heard all season, even going back into last year, Ben, when they were winning, in fact.
Yeah. The second section has to do with a guy that I think a lot of Padres fans not familiar with. I've never met him personally, but works for the organization by the name of Don Tricker, someone who's been with the Padres since late 2017, early 2018. So a long time, a guy who is very close with AJ Preller and has an unorthodox background in the world of Major League Baseball. He's a former New Zealand All Blacks rugby coach, performance manager. And he was brought in, quote, according to a former Padres coach, to change the culture of the Padres, you know, emulate some things that a very successful program on the other side of the world did, something, you know, outside of the box that AJ Preller thought, you know, could be ahead of the curve. You know, other teams aren't doing this. Let's try doing something a little bit different with an outside eye from somewhere else that's had a lot of success, and give him some influence and some ability to go in and ask questions and maybe think of things that we haven't thought of before.
So interestingly enough, I read the book. It's called Legacy. 15 Lessons in Leadership by James Kerr, what the All Blacks can teach us about the business of life. I read that book years ago. I think right when we started is when I picked up that book and read it. And it's a good book. It's really interesting. I mean, this is one of the most successful cultural teams of all time. Some of the things that I read that I loved. I mean, there's a part in it about character. It says, even after a huge win, the All Blacks finish their celebrations and sweep the sheds because no one looks after the All Blacks. The All Blacks look after themselves. Don't be too big to do the small things. I loved that. I thought that was the coolest thing. Whenever you see somebody cleaning up their own mess, right? Instead of letting somebody do it for them. No, this is our team. This is our house. This is our dugout, whatever. I thought that was really cool. So based on, and I'll be honest, the guy's been here 6 years. I'd never heard his name until this season. Never. I never noticed him on the website. I'd never heard his name. Things start getting out. You start listening. You start hearing things. You start looking up things yourself. Now it comes out in this article that the way it was perceived by the players is, oh, cool, you guys sent a spy in here that really has no idea what he's talking about.
Let me read just a paragraph here from Dennis's piece about Don Tricker. It says, still almost 6 years after his hiring, many current and former Padres players, coaches, and other employees continue to express consternation about Tricker's responsibilities. Tricker, especially early on, frequented the clubhouse, sat in on player and staff meetings, quietly taking notes. Some believe he's effectively a spy for the front office. In parentheses, Padres do not allow front office employees to speak to the media without permission. Quote, I don't know what Don does, honestly, one former front office staffer said. Another quote, all he was doing was ex-judging, according to an ex-coach. He never provided any feedback to any coach or player. Not everyone had a poor experience with Tricker, though. One former staffer said Tricker, as an outsider to the sport, regularly posed thought-provoking questions. Why, for example, did the Padres take batting practice that did not replicate the intensity of in-game pitching? So, again, there's balance here. It's not all negative and all positive, but it does seem that for whatever purpose that Don Tricker was brought in, that players and coaches never fully bought into this guy is here to help us, and let's use his experience and his unorthodox, perspective as a way we can advance. They saw him potentially as like an enemy in their own midst or someone to be wary of inside the clubhouse.
The thing that blows my mind is he's been here 6 years. It clearly hasn't worked. This has been an issue. This was an issue a couple of years ago. Why do talented people get thrown out of this organization? So I'm not saying he's not talented. Maybe he's not a talented culture builder at baseball when he doesn't know anything about baseball. Why is Preston Mattingly gone and Don Tricker remains? Why is Skip Schumacher gone and Don Tricker remains? Why is, the list goes on and on. There's a whole, slew of...
Where's Preston Mattingly?
The Phillies.
He's like the guy.
He's the guy. He's going to be probably the successor to Dave Dombrowski when he's done. I mean, he is like, we had him. He would be on the bench
he looked
talking
like one
to
of the players' kids. Like he was just hanging out, picking up baseballs.
But there's a few guys. There's a few guys that are, I think, with the Braves now. But again, man, I'm all for trying stuff. Sometimes it doesn't work. 6 years is a long time. Culture problems were an issue, and they were highlighted 2 years ago in the piece by Dennis Lind and Ken Rosenthal. Here we are 2 years later. What has changed? If nothing changes, nothing changes.
And I want to get to your guys' thoughts on the relationship between AJ Preller and Bob Melvin.
100%.
After reading that article, and I know we'll get to it next, after reading that article, I don't know how you can read that and go, oh, yeah, we can run it back with both of those guys next year. 100%. One of them will be gone.
I think so.
That's the next section, and we will discuss it. The manager, Melvin, brought in, obviously, by A.J. Preller, but was he ever given the authority or reins to do what Bob Melvin has done with other teams? We'll talk about that coming up next. It's Ben and Woods. Don't go away. Talking Padres on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan.
Yeah, let's bang tick on woods. Let's stay in the moment right now. It'd be weird to stop down for musical trivia when this is such an important piece that was written by Dennis Lin and Ken Rosenthal yesterday. I actually had Paulie print out the old one too from a couple years ago, and going back through this one, it's just like, man, like nothing has changed. If we got an end of the year report, Ben, on our work and our personal lives, and you know what I mean? Because that's really what you do. They're digging into the AJ Preller and the culture of the San Diego Padres, and that's a personal thing. And you got that report at the end of 21, and you're the same in 2023, and you're mired in another collapse, yes, but like an all-season collapse? That's weird to me.
Yeah,
like nothing's changed.
As we get into the next section of the piece, which is about Bob Melvin and the relationship with AJ Preller, you referenced 2 years ago, and the section about Jace Tingler, the knock on him, at least from a player perspective, was that he was just viewed as a puppet for AJ Preller. He was too closely aligned with the front office. And, so AJ went with a very different direction with Bob Melvin, someone who was not, closely aligned, a veteran who is well respected. And according to, this piece and what we've heard as well, Bob Melvin remains incredibly well respected inside the clubhouse. People like Xander Bogaerts talking about how his communication skills are second to none.
Which is exactly what we heard from Jump Street.
Yep. Players inside the organization, seem to enjoy playing for Bob Melvin.
Who is Bob Meller?
That's the second time I've flubbed that before.
Hold on. Remix.
Great manager, great guy. The players like Bob Melvin. That doesn't mean that he's necessarily the right person for the job. The job of a manager is not just to be liked by his players. However, he's certainly not the reason, you're not getting a bunch of grumbling players going, the manager is the issue here, like they might have said a couple of years ago with Jace Tingler.
I mean, when the day Andy Green was let go, Will Myers literally said, yeah, I think it was the right move. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can't imagine players feeling the same way.
I can't either.
If Bob Melvin was relieved of his duties in 10 days, 11 days. I really can't imagine. I think it would be, honestly, if I were one of the players, speaking for myself, I would feel a tremendous amount of guilt. Tremendous. Because I think Bob Melvin is a tremendous man and a tremendous manager. And if Bob Melvin isn't managing this team next year,
I'd be voicing support right now.
No
as
doubt.
A player.
And if he's not here next year, that's malpractice as far as I'm concerned.
Well, and you may have a riot, a revolution on your hands if you get rid of Bob Melvin in that clubhouse, which is something that I think the Padres absolutely should consider before they make any moves, knowing we've got culture issues to fix, and they're only going to get more severe if Bob Melvin is not there, because the players clearly respect him and want to continue to play for him. Puts him in an interesting situation here at the end of the season.
This is massively entertaining here and interesting. Quote, yet as the Padres crumbled this season, the differences between Preller and Melvin created a major disconnect. The rift between the two became one of the worst-kept secrets in baseball. Melvin declined to comment for the story. It says several Padres people interviewed for the story described circumstances in which Preller told players one thing, Melvin told them another. One player, while careful not to absolve himself and his teammates of blame, likened the situation to a toxic relationship between parents in which the kids suffer. If no one's on the same page, you're getting two stories from two different people. There's not trust there. The players are going to feel like, well, who can I confide in? Who can I talk to? I mean, if he goes, it's again, there's another quote in there. I think it was this or something over the weekend, basically said, if it's not Bob Melvin, then who is it? Who is it? I see a lot of takes online. Oh, Ozzie Guillen, you need a fiery guy to kick these guys in the rear end. Give Benji Gill a shot. Paulie suggested this morning, maybe Adrian Beltre.
He was referenced in the story by Dennis Lin and Ken Rosenthal.
I'm not going to crap on any ideas. I'm really not. There's a couple that just don't make a lot of sense. Ozzie Guillen hasn't managed in a long time, and I think there's a reason behind it. Not exactly sure what it is, But I don't know that a fiery kind of guy gets a job done here either. I honestly have no idea. If it's not Bob Melvin, then who?
That's the quote.
The problem is, like the reason I thought, Adrian Beltre, after hearing seeing his name in that story, was that'd be a first-time manager.
Again,
that's who you're going to get. You're not going to go get some elite veteran manager who knows what they're doing, because they're going to go, wait, you just broke Bob Melvin.
Yeah, Bob Melvin is out?
You're telling me I'm going to be on a 1-year hot seat every single year because you just rotate managers in. He'll be number 6 out of 10 in 10 years?
9 years.
Another part of the section here that Dennis Lynn writes about says Preller's roster construction created difficulties for Melvin, and we're kind of seeing that in the last few days with the contributions they're getting deeper in the roster. Lynn writes, the Padres played much of the first half with essentially only one position player reserve beyond the backup catcher. That's, of course, because Nelson Cruz and Matt Carpenter were taking up roster spots, really couldn't play in the field. Melvin didn't have many levers to pull. Most of the Padres regulars played every game. That lineup was cemented once Fernando Tatis Jr. returned on April 20th from his suspension. So Dennis concludes the workload perhaps contributed to another divide between the front office and Melvin's coaching staff. There was just sometimes guys run out of gas, one Padres player said. I see it, and sometimes the sad part is club officials see it too. Why don't you make adjustments?
There's no adjustments to make,
we heard
Bob, right? We've heard Bob say...
But yesterday he said, hey, the way I like to manage is get everyone involved, use lots of guys. I've finally been able to do that lately.
His first day on the job, day one press conference, I believe the quote was, you don't win a World Series with 25, 26 guys. You win it with 50 guys. That was like the first day he got here. He was not able to do that this year. He just wasn't. Those guys were gone. They were moved to bring in other major league ready players. It's fine. I mean, there's not too many moves that AJ Preller made over the last few years. Some of them left you scratching your head, but for the most part, I was pretty fired up for I'd say 75% of them, which now I'd say maybe 35% have actually worked out, maybe even less. But at the time, I thought, okay, yeah, this makes sense to me. Hindsight being 20/20, obviously we have that luxury. AJ Preller does not. He does not have that luxury.
No, and Melvin doesn't come out completely, uncriticized. According to Lynn, Melvin has drawn internal criticism for his bullpen management, according to one former official. And we've heard that from fans all season long, that feels like, he's pulled the wrong strings out of the pen a lot this season. Sure. Padres ranked 12th in the majors in bullpen ERA, 25th in save percentage. Their one-run and extra inning records, perhaps attributable to poor luck, but a manager's decision-making can also influence those outcomes. Of course, they point out last year everything was fine. They went 30-17 in those one-run games. So it's not necessarily Melvin forgot what he was doing, but maybe didn't have the right levers to pull, as they said this season.
Yeah, obviously injuries played a part in it. You had guys coming up. Guys were not sharp early. Luis Garcia was not sharp at all early. Cosgrove was a bit of a bright spot. I'm trying to remember early in the season who were the main guys. Nick Martinez, kind of a weird hybrid start for him in the season, was used in high leverage. Maybe that was a mistake after 2 or 3 times of it not working in high leverage, giving up the long ball. Maybe it's time to make a change there, right? And Bob was slow to do that because he had seen Nick Martinez do it before. He puts a lot of trust in his guys. And as a player, that's what you live for, right? You live for a manager that's going to trust you and give you the opportunity to get yourself out of it. And hey, by the way, a lot of guys did start off the season slow and got themselves out of, whether it be slumps, pitching slumps, et cetera, and that's, I think, attributed to Bob Melvin and Niebla and the guys that all helped them get themselves out of it. But you can't do it with no ABs, right? You can't do it with no innings pitched. So while some of the moves have been confounding and head-scratching, obviously, I said it early in the season, which gas can do you want to go to? Do you want to go to Brent Homerwell? Do you want to go to Luis Garcia? Do you want to go to the rookie Tom Cosgrove in a high-leverage situation? Or do you want to go to the guy you just paid $30 million to in Nick Martinez to try to get you out of a high-leverage situation, which he has a track record of doing so? It makes sense to me. When it doesn't work out, that's when people go, well, you idiot. You should have gone to Honeywell. You should have gone to whoever. And I've said it like a mantra. Managing a bullpen would be the single worst job in the country. I'd rather clean sewers than manage a bullpen at the major league level. I sent you guys last night. Just last night, I was scrolling through Twitter, and I sent the fellas one I saw from Texas. Came out of Texas. And it said, I'm finding it. You can vamp for a minute. Where did it go? Oh, here we go. At Evan P. Grant, who's a writer for the Rangers. When will the Rangers media blame Boach for pulling starters too early and going to this terrible bullpen? Every fan knows it and is screaming at their TV. And I wrote, same S, different area code. It's same in Houston, same in Atlanta. You know, they've lost, I think, 4 in a row. They're panicking. It's the hardest job there is to do. How do you know? You play the matchups. Sometimes you play your gut. But when you have guys that probably aren't ready for that level, and other guys get injured, and there's no depth to choose from, which gas can do you call on?
I wonder if the Padres just had started the season with this current mix.
With a little Eggy.
Batten and Eggy, and obviously Campy being healthy would have been a different mix. But
it would have been huge.
With a healthy starting rotation, Joe and you, if they would have played like this all season long, or they would have just run into the same struggles early in the year. And this has nothing to do with the current mix of players. It does feel like Bob Melvin likes, using other guys, but he wouldn't have played Matt Batten every single day, if it wasn't required because of injuries right now. If Manny's elbow didn't force him, he'd be out there every day.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, Juan Soto wants to play every day. It's not as though Juan Soto's been begging for a day off and Bob Melvin's going, I can't give you a day off.
Opposite.
Juan Soto doesn't want to come out of the lineup. Fernando Tatis Jr. wants to be an everyday player. He said as much at the start of the season, and he has become that this year. So I don't know how much different it could have been at the beginning of the year with a different roster, because those guys were going to play every day.
But I think you answered your own question about 3 minutes ago when you said Matt Carpenter, who really can't play a position, and Nelly Cruz, who really can't play a position. That is not the way Bob Melvin likes to manage. He doesn't like to just platoon a DH and then roll guys out for 89 games in a row, right? That's not how he likes to manage. He wants to have more guys involved. And you had two guys,
correct,
two guys that were just there to hit, and they didn't even do that well. So that really puts you behind the 8 ball as a manager when you're like, my options are very, very thin. And now with Suarez being gone, I got a rookie up here in Cosgrove. I'm not putting him in a high situation yet, high leverage. What do I do? Josh Hader has said he really only wants to throw 1 inning. He's in a walk year. I mean, there's a lot of factors working against you as a manager when you're hamstrung. Yeah, and by the way, the other part of the article that said that they talked about GMs trying to stay about 40,000 feet away, right? And they said with AJ, he'll end up being about 10,000 feet away, which means he's in it, his hands are on it, this is what you need to do. When you hire a manager, we said it yesterday.
We've heard that too.
Yeah, we have.
From current and former people.
And when you hire a manager like Bob Melvin, I said it yesterday, I thought about it later, and I thought, yeah, I'm going to stand behind the point of that should be the most relaxing thing for AJ Preller ever. He doesn't have to worry about Tingler losing the clubhouse. He knows for a fact Bob Melvin isn't going to lose it. He doesn't have to worry about Andy Green not being respected. He knows Bob Melvin is respected. That, to me, after that article came out in 21, this was the time you hire Bob Melvin, Ben, and you go, all right, now I get to kick back, and let's see what this guy can do. And it hasn't been that way. And that was rumored, and now it's confirmed. It said in this article, their relationship is unfixable. I don't believe that. I believe that 2 men can get in a room and work out anything if they're honest with themselves and they're honest with each other. But I'll tell you what, man, I've said it before. If he is gone, that's baseball malpractice. Bob Melvin deserves to manage this team for as long as he wants, in my opinion.
And if AJ Preller stays, which is still very much a possibility, it can work, but it sounds like AJ is going to have to make some changes.
Absolutely.
If he's going to stick around and be successful.
Which, by the way, it's not an indictment on somebody.
No.
It's not. No one's perfect. No GM is perfect. No human being is perfect. You have to look at yourself in the mirror and go, I've blown. I do it with my marriage. I do it as a father. I do it as a co-host. I do it as a friend. Constantly. Too much self-evaluation.
And I feel like AJ, I don't know him that well, but from what we've talked to him, and we've talked to him more than most over the last few years, he wants to give this thing his best effort. He's 100%. The general manager of a baseball team. And if he's going to go down, he wants to go down fighting and kicking and doing everything he possibly can. But ultimately, the last thing he needs to try is to do less. And maybe if he's gonna stick around, he's got to just back off.
You mean that the last thing, like the way to fix it, maybe is all right. As much as this is gonna suck,
this is gonna hurt more than anything. But I got to take my finger off a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't work, then
I
gave everything a try, and maybe I just wasn't cut out to make this successful.
When your de facto mode is, okay, well, this isn't working. I've got to now work 23 hours a day. I don't know that that's the right way. There's so much more in here. I mean, you guys, we could literally do this.
I mean, the right at the beginning of the piece, it says the Padres' guiding philosophy under Preller, according to a former high-ranking official. Quote, do more than everybody else at all times.
Yeah.
Sounds about like AJ Preller.
No question.
Guy who never sleeps, is always looking for what's next, an edge, scouting, whatever it can be. And while that is also, it's one of his great strengths, it may also turn out to be also his biggest weakness. We'll take a timeout. I do want to get to Don't Do This because you got to be roasted for what you nearly made us do on the air today.
Idiot.
Really almost embarrassed us incredibly.
I almost just said I can't believe I fell for it, but that would be a lie. I absolutely can believe I fell for it.
And then we'll get some phone lines open. We're going to have a giveaway in our next segment, and then after the bottom of the hour, we want to hear from the Tier 1s what you've just heard. There's still more. There's more in the clubhouse culture and chemistry of players that we can get into as well. Another big day for Padres fans as we shake down the end of this unbelievable season. Coming up next on San Diego's #1 sports station, back after a check of traffic here on 97.3 The Fan. All guests on Ben and Woods appear on the Premier Chevrolet of Carlsbad fan hotline. Save money the right way with Premier Chevrolet of Carlsbad. Visit them today in the Carlsbad Auto Mall. Chevrolet, find new roads. Jesse Agler joins us a little over an hour from now. We've got our Bellator MMA giveaway in about 5 minutes after Don't Do This, and then right back to discussing the piece that dropped on the Padres overnight in The Athletic, the relationship between Bob Melvin and AJ Preller, comments about AJ Preller's general managerial style, lots of interesting stuff we're getting to this morning. But I can't skip Don't Do This because Woodsy nearly had us going on a deep fake story that actually did fool a lot of real media outlets.
I was so excited.
I am. So the story has to do with the Iowa football program.
Yes.
And you may have seen, so they have a very interesting clause in the contract of their offensive coordinator.
Who signs that contract, by the way?
Well, I mean, he's the kid of Kirk Ferentz,
Yes.
the longtime coach. So my guess is it was one of those, the AD goes, all right, well, we can hire him, but he needs to be held to some standards. It can't just be dad evaluating. No, it's not my son who's the fault. It's his fault. So they put in a clause in his contract that essentially to keep his job, the Iowa Hawkeyes need to average 25 points per game.
Yeah.
This season.
For him to average, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's a very clear metric, but it's weird. Well, it has to average 25 points per game.
You saw them late in the game last week go for a touchdown to make sure that they got enough points to cover their offensive coordinator's ass.
Exactly, which is very strange.
It is.
And it's led to a lot of discussion around the country about Iowa football and what's going on with Iowa football. But they're doing okay, and they're winning so far. And so it was kind of believable when a post that appeared to be Brian Ferentz, the offensive coordinator, giving a press conference and lashing out on his critics.
I died when I saw this.
Appeared on social media yesterday, looking very authentic. And here's what, quote unquote, Brian Ferentz, and I say that because it's not real. It's a deep fake.
It's a deep fake.
Had to say.
Got me.
You all have had fun with this 25-point obsession, and I get it. I do. But if I'm not mistaken, we just dropped 41 on Saturday. So maybe it's time to grab a hold of your little step ladders and go ahead and climb out of my ass for a while.
First of all, that's terrifying that is AI voice generated, whatever. Like, that is a deep fake. That did not happen.
Video too, not just audio.
Yeah, video
as well.
Standing at a podium, like, that's creepy that they can do that.
Yes.
Woods, you sent that over to us. Oh my God!
I was so excited.
Check this out! Holy crap!
Thank God that we have a millennial on our staff.
You sent us the X, the tweet, the Z, whatever it's called. Opened it up, saw it, laughed, was shocked myself, and then the very first comment below that says, in response to the account that posted it, your Dabo one was so good. They were talking about it on a couple of podcasts as if it were real.
Oh, God.
And I go, hang on. I think you got.
Play it again.
You all have had fun with this 25-point obsession, and I get it.
Yep.
I do.
I do.
But if I'm not mistaken, we just dropped 41 on Saturday. So maybe it's time to grab a hold of your little step ladders and go ahead and climb out of my ass for a while.
I died. I was like, that's the greatest coach speak I've ever heard in my life. I was becoming an Iowa fan.
Bo's going to go to Iowa now.
Yeah, I was like, this is phenomenal.
The moral of the story here, though, and it's kind of sad, but you have to be skeptical
of everything
right now.
Climb out of my ass for a while.
Does it make sense? If something is that far out of the ordinary, is it real? Occasionally it will be, but sometimes now it's going to be a fake. And other people will get fooled, and we will probably at some point get fooled as well.
Indeed.
But you have to be vigilant, Woods.
One more
be
time
vigilant.
with the echo.
You all have had fun with this
the echo. I want your
25-point
echo
obsession, and I get it. I do. But if I'm not mistaken, we just dropped 41 on Saturday. So maybe it's time to grab a hold of your little step ladders and go ahead and climb out of my ass for a while.
It's so good. Save that for the tournament of drops. Even though it's a fake drop, I want that drop forever. I will take us, Ben, to I believe is it Orchard Park?
Orchard Park, New York.
Yes, where the
outskirts of Buffalo.
The Buffalo Bills. I'll read you the first sentence. You ready? An unidentified football fan who was naked and covered in human excrement was discovered in a construction site hole near the Buffalo Bills home opener on Sunday. The extent of his injuries was a cut on his forehead, according to WBEN. WBEN.
It's my TV station, baby.
Welcome to WBEN.
I think it's fantastic. So this fan.
Their other TV station is WOODS.
That's right, WOOD. The unnamed fan, 29-year-old male, he jumped over a fence by the stadium construction site, and he fell 30 to 40 feet. That's 3 to 4 stories.
Yeah.
Right? Go to the 4th floor of this building and jump out. He sustained only a cut on his forehead. But wait, there's more. He was covered in human excrement, doo-doo, if you will.
How did that happen?
I'll tell you.
Okay.
Well,
He had found that doo-doo in an on-site porta potty.
Okay.
He was also under the influence of LSD, cocaine, and marijuana. What a combo that is. He apparently was on all of those and then walked into a porta potty and started smearing doo-doo all over his...
cocaine and marijuana.
And smearing doo-doo all over his naked body. Oh, he had boxer shorts on.
He went swimming in the porta potty.
And then, the thought of it makes me wretched. Then walks out and jumps over a fence and falls 30 to... He wakes up in jail. He's like, what the hell happened? They're like, dude, you're never going to believe what you did. Like, you wouldn't believe. There's pictures. There's pictures of him
I'm
covered.
definitely not trying mushrooms.
Mushrooms were not even mentioned. They weren't even mentioned.
That's LSD.
No,
that's what mushrooms are, right?
No.
Mind-altering psychedelics is what we're talking about.
No,
I do not want to end up in a construction site covered in excrement, Woods.
God, man.
You want that to happen at spring training. You want the story to be San Diego radio host found in West Phoenix construction site covered in excrement with a cut on his forehead. It's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah, because nobody's taking LSD, cocaine, and marijuana. That's exactly why it's not going to happen.
Really? You've never.
Never.
Is he up or down with those three?
Depends on what he took first.
That combination.
Typically, one would kind of wipe out the other, and then one would
You
kind
got
of...
2 downers and an upper.
Pretty much. Yeah, go ahead.
Finally, a little do this.
DD Mega
We'll see
Doo-Doo.
if it holds, but always want to be supportive of people who are trying to get their lives together and be better. Phil Mickelson tweeting out yesterday, most of you will enjoy this football season with moderation while having lots of fun and entertainment. Fantasy leagues will provide banter amongst friends, and money won or lost betting won't affect you. I won't be betting this year because I crossed the line of moderation and into addiction, which isn't any fun at all. And he goes on and detailed some of the things that were reported when the book came out. Billy Walters' book, Gambler, came out that said Phil had bet $1 billion on football games over the past 30 years and lost $100 million. And I thought it was interesting what Phil admitted to. This is... you got to figure there's a lot of reflection and maybe some therapy that went into this. He said the money wasn't really the issue. Our financial security wasn't threatened, but I was so distracted I wasn't able to be present with the ones I love, and that caused a lot of harm. This lack of presence has been so hurtful. He said, you're here, but you're not with us, because he was always obsessed with the next bet and what he was gambling on. So it wasn't necessarily the money. He was rich. He knew he could afford it. He thought it was fun, and what's the problem? If I can afford to lose it, then let me do it. But it became such an obsession for him that it was causing damage in every other part of his life.
There's a lot of truth to that. When I was gambling a lot, and I have a limit, like it could never cross the line into, for me at least, like I'm robbing a bank to pay off my debts. I have like a limit. I have a set limit that I could do. But there is that thing of where you're like, I'll make your sandwich, and you're not checked in because you're worried about the Panthers-Saints game. You know what I mean? Which any other day you would not care about at all. There is that kind of sinking feeling, that nervous feeling when you're doing it a lot. So yeah, just be careful out there. Know your bet with your head, not over it.
And that is don't and do this for a Tuesday.
That was Don't Do This with Ben and Woods on 97.3 The Fan.
That guy fell 4 stories.
4 stories, yeah.
4. Go to 4 and look out the window and jump.
We're on 6. Just 2 floors below. I feel like it would be fatal from 4. But...
There's no question. 4 stories.
We've got a pair of tickets to the Bellator MMA 300 coming to Pechanga Arena on October 7th. Up for grabs right now If you want to head to what is supposed to be a very special, you got some of their top fighters going. Tickets are on sale now at access.com, AXS.com, but you can win a pair by being the third caller right now at 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. A couple minutes late, but we got giveaways at the bottom of the hour, every hour the rest of the show. So stay tuned for that. And then when we come back, we'll have more on the Padres discussion on AJ Preller, the athletic piece, get to some of your phone calls as well. All next with Ben and Woods on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. seasonal decorating is a breeze. Snuggle up on a sectional or ultra-modern sofa. Gather outside with a new fire pit or conversation set. Ashley has everything you'll need. Shop in store or visit ashley.com. I want to get back and maybe get some phone calls here. We just gave away the Bellator MMA tickets. Have some passes for Power Trip coming up in our next hour.
Oh, yeah.
Going to give those away. But let's open up the phone lines now for Padres fans who want to talk about this athletic article we've been discussing all morning. 833-288-0973. Give us a call, 833-288-0973. Haven't really mentioned also Manny Machado's news that came out yesterday pregame that he is going to get surgery on his tennis elbow as soon as the Padres are officially eliminated from contention.
So let's start there.
Yeah.
Because I tweeted yesterday when I saw the news come out. Our beloved Annie Heilbrunn tweeted it out. So Machado said it's likely a 6 to 7 month rehab after having the surgery. Expects to be ready by spring training. And then the math, and I'm not good at math, but the math started not mathing for me.
Spring training starts in 5 months. 5 months from this week. So, yeah. Now, everything that I've heard about tennis elbow surgery is
the season starts 6 months from tomorrow.
Manny said 6 to 7 months, but everything I've heard, doctors, etc., 3 to 4 months is really
that's good.
Is the timeline. So maybe Manny misspoke. Wouldn't be the first time that that's ever happened. Just speaking off the cuff, maybe it's 6 to 7 before you're like totally, completely 100%. But at 3 months, you can start ramping up and getting back into shape. At that point, maybe it's like 3 months of shutdown, and then you start going. I don't know specifically.
Yeah, is there potential though that it's worse than he's letting?
I have not seen any indication that it's really more than a 3 to 4 month recovery from tennis elbow surgery.
Did he screw up by saying 6 to 7 months?
It's possible.
Because then it leads me to believe, well, maybe it's more than just tennis elbow.
Well, or, I saw a lot of fans going, why doesn't he just get it now? Or why didn't he get it a month ago to make sure that he's going to be ready? He said, I should be ready for spring training. I would trust more that Manny, has had the discussion and they said, okay, yeah, if you have it at the end of the season or near the end of the season, you should be ready for spring training. If they said, yeah, you're going to need 7 months to recover, and if you have it in October, you'll be ready for spring training, well, that math doesn't work out. So there's a bit of a disconnect on the communication there, but, I tweeted at Annie and she said maybe speaking off the cuff, everyone was just kind of, not doing the math really fast, but yeah, I've been told and read that tennis elbow surgery is a 3 to 4 month. It's the outside of the elbow, not the inside where like the UCL, the Tommy John part of the elbow.
And by the way, I think both things can be true that I mean, you guys, who's my favorite baseball player? Manny Machado is my favorite baseball player. This isn't a shot at him. You can respect him for...
Respect the hell out of what he wants to do.
You can respect him for wanting to finish what he started. I absolutely do. I can also not think any less of him if he says, no, this season's 2.2, not 2%, 0.2% chance of making the playoffs. I would not think... One guy said, well, if he goes and gets a surgery, you'll drag him for quitting. I said, well, you don't know me very well if you think that I would do that. My head is already on 2024. And I understand that, Manny posting and all that, it's a big deal. And I think other players see that and they learn from that and they also realize how big of a deal it is. You're seeing it in Atlanta, Matt Olson wanting to play every day, Acuna wanting to play every day. I know he's a little banged up now, but that was the goal. Even though they're clinched and rolling, there's pride in it, and I get it. But pride sometimes comes before the fall. I told this guy on Twitter, I said, Bo loves ice cream. I'm his dad. I know he loves it. I know it's important to him. I know it tastes good. As his father, I cannot let him have ice cream for every meal. At some point, you have to step in and be a dad, or you have to step in and be an organization and say, we love you. We appreciate your effort. We appreciate your heart, your grit, your soul. You got to shut it down, dude. 2024 is where we need you more.
This is one where we're just going to have to wait. And if Manny gets the surgery and is ready to go, opening day 2024.
Then no harm, no foul.
Then really, it's a non-story. But if he gets the surgery and ends up missing a week or two, I think you'll absolutely go back and say, he should have gotten it because there really wasn't anything to play for the last couple of weeks. It was just pride, and you let pride get in the way of being ready for the following season. Now, I don't mind if he has to ramp up a little slower in spring training. It might actually be a good thing for Manny. You know, they did so much with the World Baseball Classic this year that a nice light spring training going into a season, that knowing the way he plays during the season is not necessarily the worst thing to maybe change the timeline on his offseason a little bit. So I'm not gonna come out and hot take this one either way and say, oh man, he's totally in the wrong, he should shut it down.
I'll hot take it and say that he absolutely should get the surgery like tomorrow. That's my hot take, is that you're good. You know, it wasn't your best season. I also realize that you played through a back, two reconstructed knees, the ankle from last year can't be feeling great, and now an elbow. Shut this baby down, Manny. We need you in 24 and beyond. We know you're going to be there. We know you're going to be there for 150 games. The guy never goes on the IL. I understand it. I will not think any less of that man. And in fact, I'll probably think more of him for
you
saying...
You can make the argument, though, for every player. They're all ailing a little bit at this point, and that
this one
once
requires
the season's
surgery.
Over, yeah, and I bet
the counter would be that these games, until they are mathematically eliminated, these games are more important than games in late March, early April next year.
Normally, I'd agree with you, but I saw how this season played out. I saw how this season started, and we all said, don't worry, we'll hit our stride in June, July, August. It never happened.
Let me ask you this question.
Hold on. I'm now a little bit damaged from that.
Yeah.
From next April, you know what you won't hear me say much? It's early. It's April. I now realize after 38 years of watching baseball obsessively, those games really do matter. They do. I mean, they absolutely do.
Of course they do.
They absolutely matter. And to be at full strength, as close to 100% as a guy that's played that many games in his career, and you hit 30 and you start to decline, I need him at full strength.
Let me ask you,
year.
Paul, if I could guarantee you the Padres won the rest of their games, but I can't guarantee you a playoff spot. They might have a chance, though. They're winning the rest of their games with Manny in the lineup, and then they've got a 40% chance of making the playoffs.
It ain't going to 40.
If they can go from 0.2 to 40.
If they win them all, it either goes to 100. It's either 100 or 0 at the end of the year. Either they're in or they're not.
Right.
I'm just saying the odds of them getting the help that they need, if they win every single game, they're going to need, like, the Giants can go no better than 9-6. That probably could happen. They play the Giants. But, like the Reds have to go right around one game above 500. I think someone's probably going to do it, but it's not impossible. If the Padres won all their games, it's somewhere, I would say it's probably between 30 and 40% that they'd make the playoffs. Now, the odds of them winning every game are incredibly small, which is why they're at 0.2%. If I could guarantee you, though, they win every game, would you rather take that and the 25 to 40% chance that they make the playoffs, or I'll give you a 10-game winning streak to start next season, right now? Would you take next season's
10 games
next
to start
season?
next
Well,
season.
that's the argument here with Manny. You'd rather have him healthy for the start of next season than even playing and helping them win every game
that
this year.
That wasn't me arguing for it. It was me presenting maybe Manny's point of view.
Okay,
I get Manny. It's pride, and I don't think it's ego necessarily. I think it's pride. I think that guys do take great pride being on the
about
field.
Leadership for the last 4 days about Manny Machado.
100%.
That's
leadership.
That's how he leads too.
That's how he leads.
He doesn't know any other way to lead other than posting.
4 to 6 hours of treatment on a busted ankle that should have put him on the IL that didn't last year when you needed him most. I think players looked at that and go, yeah, my hamstrings are a little sore, but I need to get my ass back out there because Manny's been on the table for 4 hours. So I fully understand that. But the prudent decision, the forward-thinking decision, I think, is if he says, I have a problem with teams forcing guys to get surgeries, Manny himself said, yeah, it's going to need surgery. So he knows it's coming. Get it done. Get it done now and be ready to go and run it back next year because he's here. He's going to be here.
All right, we still need to check traffic. We got a few more minutes left. Our phone lines are open, 833-288-0973. Join us after this check of traffic on 97.3 The Fan.
From the premier Buick GMC of Carlsbad Traffic Center, part of the premier auto family, here's Kelly Danick.
Traffic is sponsored by Old Town San Diego Chamber of Commerce. Just one problem here, guys. Northbound 15 at the 8. Tow truck is on scene of a 2-vehicle accident over to the right shoulder. Get ready for a culinary extravaganza in historic Old Town San Diego. Join us on Thursday, September 21st from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. Indulge in rich flavors and diverse cuisines at participating restaurants. Tickets available now at tasteofoldtown.org. Prepare your taste buds for an unforgettable journey at Taste of Old Town San Diego. I'm Kelly Danick with Ben and Woods, San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan.
All right, the last section of the athletic piece that we've been discussing gets into the areas of leadership that were broached last Friday by Kevin Acee in the Union Tribune, and reaches some of the same conclusions, actually, but does go in, I think, a little more specifically on the point about the Padres' Big Four and why it's been very difficult to establish kind of an entire leadership culture in the Padres clubhouse player perspective. And that is because, he says, the Big Four are all at different stages of their career. You know, Manny Machado in the first year of an 11-year, $350 million extension. Bogarts, new free agent addition on a long deal. Tatis, of course, is here for the long term, but coming back from his suspension and injury. And then, of course, Juan Soto, who's the top performer, but his uncertain future with the team, and we discussed this a bit yesterday as well, doesn't make him the natural choice to be the leader of the Padres when you don't know, is he going to be here or not in another year? So it leaves an interesting dynamic a bit in the Padres clubhouse. 4 guys who all kind of feel the responsibility to be leaders, but for whatever reason, something kind of stands in the way of every single one of them necessarily stepping up and being that guy or that perfect guy to lead a Padres clubhouse.
Yeah, I mean, it's we talked a little bit yesterday about, you know, Xander stepping in and not really being able to. He felt, you know, not. It's hard. Like, you signed Cruz and Carpenter to come in and try to be those glue guys, but when you're not hitting and you're not performing, are you going to listen to a glue guy that's, you know, up there flailing every day and you're batting .069 after, you know, 6 weeks of the season and Nelly's not doing much, and it's hard to be a leader in a new clubhouse. And the thing about this clubhouse is, one thing you can count on is a turnover. There's always a turnover. Every year, it's very few of the same faces every season, every spring training. And so I think that has something to do with it as well. But again, Manny's been here, you know, the longest, and it should be his clubhouse.
And he writes, Dennis writes, Machado is not a classic leader. Some teammates say he's too temperamental, inconsistent in his behavior. However, one former Padre said, quote, I personally think Manny is an exceptional leader.
Sure.
Puts in work every single day, plays through ticky-tack injuries, just like we were talking about, and shows how important it is just to be on the field. Everyone has a little bit of a different perspective of Manny Machado and his leadership style. And you're going to find that in every clubhouse.
And then I would say that's probably true of most leaders, don't you?
Absolutely.
Like the story that when Acuna came up with the Braves and Freddie Freeman was the leader, and Freddie Freeman got on him almost immediately for wearing his hat wrong and having too much eye black on and all that stuff. Like, Acuna didn't really, he was a rookie, so he didn't really know what to do. He just kind of tried to fall in line. And as the season went on, he found, I'm a better player when I'm allowed to be myself. Freddie never liked it. They never could get it together. And by all accounts, Freddie Freeman's a great leader. Ronald Acuna is a great player. You want a team full of Ronald Acunas if you want to win. Look at the MVP season he put together. So you can say the same about any leader from any team.
And it's not always about the leader. It's sometimes about the followers. How do you respond to someone's leadership style? In a positive way or in a negative way? I mean, you can have a leader who's a yeller, but if you got a group of players who don't respond to yellers, well, then you need to take a different tack. All right, we are halfway home. Phone lines are open. We'll get to some calls coming up in hour number 3 of Ben & Woods, 833-288-0973, right here on The Fan.
Tuesday. What an interesting and an exciting Tuesday we've had so far. Ben and Woods 97.3 The Fan. Thanks for listening. Thanks for being here. We really appreciate you. However you choose to consume us. The FM dial comes in really nicely in my car. You can do the Odyssey app, certainly. You can watch us on YouTube. People seem to enjoy that. I don't know why, but they do. Can never pick my nose. They notice everything I do. I'm very fidgety on here. I get a lot of comments about my fidgetiness. My fidgetiness, yeah.
You got one yesterday on Instagram.
It's our boy Adam Hawk.
Yeah,
from Nation Golf.
Golf apparel company.
Phenomenal
and
company.
They commented, we just posted the Open that we had fun with yesterday.
Yeah.
Said, I just can't stop watching Woodsy just chomping on a pen for 3
cap.
straight minutes.
It's just what I do. Just the oral fixation. And we are also on Twitch as well. So I'm Woodsy. That's Paul Reindl. He's our
Seems
executive.
very appropriate for someone who's fidgety.
Yes,
to be on
Twitch. That should be my go-to app.
Should be a radio nickname.
Twitch. Hey, it's
Hey,
us,
what's
Booger
up,
and Twitch.
Why do I have to be Booger?
Your name starts with B.
Ah.
This is Booger Higgins, and he's with us as well. Thank you, Booger. Booger and Twitch. This is a good one. Is that a real show? I think it might have been.
They come on after Snot and Storch.
Well, yes, Snot and Storch. Booger McFarland. That's not his name.
But that is his nickname. That's his professional name.
It's the worst nickname of all time, Booger.
Hey, Booger.
And they call him Booger. Like, hey, Boog, what do you think? Could you think of a worse nickname to have than Booger?
Probably.
Dingleberry. All right, we're going out live. He's down on the field. Dingleberry Higgins is talking to Brady Hoke here at halftime. Dingleberry, what do they have to say, Dingle? Terrible.
Hi, Twitch.
Hey, what's up, Twitch?
You know, they talked to Eggy Rosario after the game last night and asked him through Danny Sanchez, the translator, that name Eggy, what's the deal there? And he said, I think it was his grandfather started calling him that, and it stuck. He didn't like it at all. But eventually it just kind of grew on him, and it stuck, and he was then known as Eggy, since then for the rest of his life. Eggy
What was his
Rosario.
name?
I don't know what his actual
his
name
birth
is,
name?
but his grandfather kind of nicknamed him Eggy, and he's gone by that ever since.
And by the way, they made clear in the chat, if you're looking for Ben and Woods on Twitch, it's under 97.3 The Fan, correct?
Yep.
Yep,
It's
okay.
It's linked in the description
Linked
of the
in
video.
the description of the
on
video.
YouTube.
There we go. So we got it all. We're all covered. Make sure you give us a like if you're watching on YouTube. I don't know why that helps us, but apparently it does. So do that.
This segment of Ben and Woods is brought to you by the Golf Mart. I see a lot of reaction to this morning's piece from fans who are convinced the Padres, if they ever want to figure it out, cannot do so with AJ Preller as the general manager. I'm not going to say that they're wrong, but I want to ask the question. Do you believe it's possible for people to fundamentally change? I think we all agree. AJ is a smart guy.
Yeah.
Hard worker.
Absolutely.
He's got an eye for talent,
Yep.
and he's got a good skill set that's lifted him up to this level.
None of which is, you can't deny any of that.
But he also clearly has struggled over almost a decade now, creating the right kind of consistency and atmosphere that is conducive to a generally successful clubhouse. Now, not every team is going to be successful every single season, but you really need to hit more often than AJ has on the big league level if you're going to be a successful general manager. So the question is, do you believe that AJ will see any of this? Whether it's the internal, the meetings that he has with his own staff, players that talk to him, or just read the comments from, Dennis Lynn and the anonymous quotes from former players and staffers that have worked with him, and we'll go, you know what, maybe there's some truth to this, and I need to do things differently, and that I can evolve and be a better general manager than I was before, and this can still be successful if I do things differently. Do you believe in that? Or is Tiger has their stripes and you can't really change them?
I mean, of course I believe in it. Of course.
Of course people can change. It's will he? And if nothing in the last 9 years were to inspire any change.
Well, that piece in 21, if it were me, and I like to, when I'm talking about an athlete or a GM, I like to put myself in their shoes. He's not having a good morning.
No.
Not having a good morning at all. And I'm sympathetic to that. I would hate to wake up and see a piece like this written about me. I would hate it. You guys know me well enough to know I would hate it.
Oh, yeah.
And I think most human beings would. So I do try to put myself in his shoes. But I think if that piece, which is almost identical, came out in 2021, if that didn't get me to make some changes, and again...
Well, it did in one way. He went out and hired Bob Melvin as manager.
Sure.
Which a lot of people thought, this is being forced on him. This is not someone that AJ would choose. He can't control Bob Melvin like a puppet the way he likes to, be in charge of everything. This shows growth from AJ Preller that he would pick Bob Melvin as his manager. But now we're finding out 2 years later that even though maybe he made a wise decision in choosing Bob Melvin, he hasn't really been able to change the stripes of who he is and leave Bob Melvin to the job that he was hired to do.
Correct.
As an experienced, 3-time manager of the year.
And that's, it's probably an overgeneralization.
Of course
right?
it is. Of course it is.
It absolutely is. But I do think, man, like I said earlier, I think two men that have an issue with each other can get in a room and say, look, at the end of the day, what is our common goal, Bob? Well, AJ, mine's to win a World Series. How about you? Mine's the same. Great. Step one. Here's what I need from you. I need you to stop doing this, this, and this. Okay, I can agree to that. Can you agree then to do this, this, and this when I ask? Absolutely. All right, let's go out and kick some ass. It's happened before. I don't think, it says in the article it's unfixable. That scares me. It shouldn't be. That's two stubborn men not giving in. Both, and what that tells me is that no one is bought in on the same page here. And that's what you're missing is that overall bleed to win mentality that is an entire culture of an organization from single A, rookie ball, whatever, all the way up. And I think we're seeing some of it now finally in the lower levels. A lot of dudes playing well, a lot of teams playing well, a lot of talent being developed right now. Problem is, this was all supposed to have happened 6 years ago, right? We were supposed to be enjoying the fruits of an international draft, Ben. The fruits of some of the draft picks that AJ Preller had. I think sometimes you panic, you get an opportunity, you're like, if I can bring in him for this guy and this guy, let's just do it, maybe try to win now, move up the window. I understand that. But the leash for AJ Preller, I think it really depends on AJ Preller. You can't keep doing the same thing over and over and over.
Let's
and he's gonna have to rebuild this roster again. If it's not him, then somebody else. But there are massive gaping holes in the roster for 2024.
And we've discussed every team has to rebuild in a certain sense almost every season. I mean, there's always changes that have to be made.
Have there been more changes though than in this organization? I think it's quoted in the article. A lot. 29 coaches in 9 years or something ridiculous.
I want to bring it to a more personal example, though, because you just talked about how simple it sounds. Get in a room, you share a common goal, hash it out. Okay, yeah, I can do that. You can do that. Let's work together. Let's pull on this same rope. Yeah, I can change and you can change and let's do this. Where it becomes more difficult is when things are not going well.
Absolutely.
You and I we don't always see eye to eye on everything.
Nope.
But, we do our best to work together, and things have gone well for us. Our show is doing well, so that makes it very easy to, hey, you want to do what, Woods? All right, well, things are going well. Go ahead. I've trusted you before. I'm going to keep trusting you. What's hard is when things are not going well, because in a baseball season, you're going to have a point where things take a downturn. Every team goes through struggles. In a 162-game season, you're going to have a bad month or at least a bad 2 or 3 week stretch. And then what do? Do you revert and go back to, this isn't working. I got to go back to doing what I was doing. I got to micromanage. I got to get in there. I got to bristle at the general manager. I got to do things my way. Or do you stay the course and go, let's ride it out. Let's keep doing what we've been doing. That's when it's hard. When things are not going well, to say, I need to stick with something that I don't necessarily 100% believe in, because I said I would do this and I said I would change and it's not working, and the instinct is to panic and go back to, Go back to your instincts.
Well, I'll tell you.
The instincts that have not treated you very well over the last few years.
If our boss, Adam, was in here meddling every day, I wouldn't work here. I wouldn't. We worked for a spot that was very meddlesome. I hated it. Yeah. Every day, and I'm learning the business as we go, so I just fell in line and said, great. Oh, sure, yeah. I'd love to talk to Russell Okung today. Sounds good to me. And Paulie's got Maurice Jones-Drew on tomorrow. Excellent. It was part of the reason I wanted to work for Adam, because he told me, I wanted you guys to be you. Do what you do. Adam's a great manager in that sense. They're
coming up on 5 years here at the Fan.
There are times.
He's never once said, I need you guys to talk about
right.
this.
Never.
Said, hey, if you guys missed it, here's a story.
Right.
Do with it what you will.
Correct. And how many times do I say thanks but no thanks, right? And he says, okay.
About 98% of the time.
Correct. But if he was constantly in here, why did you do this? Why did you do that? Why did you make this content decision? I wouldn't work here. I just wouldn't.
But you can also see why the place where we worked at the last spot had people who had been in this industry for 20, 30 years. You know, it had some success, and they liked things being done the way they had been done. You talk tons of football. You have, football guests and beat writers on. And Woodson, I don't really want to do that. But that's what had been successful in the past. So you kind of want to, hey, this is the way we do it.
Could not adapt.
This is our way. You've got to do that. This is how you're going to be successful. And if you don't want to listen to us, well, that's dumb. Why wouldn't you take advantage of the experience and the knowledge that I'm offering you? It's tough. It's, leadership, and it's a complicated, always evolving process. And you need to evolve as a leader, and you need to evolve as a follower at the same time. And right now, Padres are in a world of hurt when it comes to both of those aspects of building a winning culture.
Yeah, I mean, I agree, and I don't know how you change it. Here's the other thing that we always say, okay, if not Bob Melvin, then who? Well, if not AJ Preller, then who? And how does that look? Does he come in, does that person come in, he or she, come in and gut everything, start fresh? What does that do to the so-called window? Do you hit the ground running? Honestly, it's a huge undertaking for whoever, not only do they have to come in and try to win now, they also have to continue to build the farm system, and they also, hey, by the way, your job is to fix the culture that seemingly has been broken here for 9 years. It's a tall order. Who wants that gig? I don't want it, by the way. I would have no interest in it. Zero. You want me to be bench coach and slap some asses, hit some fungos? I'm your guy. But you don't want, I would not want to, okay, let me take a deep dive into our rookie ball and our Dominican camp. And no chance. No chance. It's too much for one person to handle.
I don't think it's as simple as addition by subtraction. Oh, AJ's gone. Everything's just fixed now. We all breathe a big sigh of relief, and the Padres all of a sudden are a world beater. It's not that simple. I wish it was. I mean, that would be an easy fix. Oh, yeah? AJ's just been causing all the... He's not. It's not that simple. It's much more complex and, unfortunately, much more difficult to put your finger on and then actually take action and fix it than simply saying it's all AJ's fault, or it's all Manny's fault in the clubhouse, or it's all Bob Melvin's fault. None of those things is completely true. None of those things is completely wrong.
False, yeah.
I do think I think one of those scenarios is easier to be in their shoes than the other. I would rather be the incoming GM, president, whatever title, than the new coach, I think, under the same.
Oh, no question.
Because you're given the keys as the president to run things your way.
Right.
And you are inheriting, you would assume, Bob Melvin, and it's your choice if you want to keep him. I don't know why you wouldn't.
No, but I thought you were saying if the manager goes to replace Bob Melvin, knowing how things have gone,
that's a much worse position.
That is a hugely terrible position.
And you might get a guy for his first job in Major League Baseball again, because, hey, nobody else is knocking on my door.
Right.
Like, this is great. I get to be a Major League manager.
This is fantastic. I'll do whatever you say.
You're not going to go get somebody that's been doing it for 15, 20 years
and has their
successful
idea.
Because they're going to be like, there's no way I can work in this environment.
Correct. Like, well, hey, if I was interviewing for the new man, if Bob Melvin's let go, if I was interviewing, I'd be like, hey, man, what the hell's gone on here? Why is there such massive turnover?
Right.
You know, why do all the coaches go on to success other
Whereas
places?
if you're Heim Bloom, Theo,
Yeah,
whoever,
clean
you
house.
come in and you're like, okay, I got
It's just
these
more
superstars.
work. It's way more work.
100%.
You know, way more work. But
you know,
that's
delegate a little bit.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, we're going to take a timeout. When we come back, if you want to call us, 833-288-0973. We're also going to give away those Power Trip Festival passes, valued, hundreds of dollars of value to see some top metal and rock acts that are going to be performing next month out in Indio. So your chance to win is coming up. And then Jesse Agler is going to join us at 8:35. We'll continue our Padres discussion here on a Tuesday morning with Bennett Woods after a check of traffic here on 97.3 The Fan. joins us, and we're going to give away those Power Trip Festival passes. But you got the math done, or someone did the math.
Craig Elston, man, the great Craig Elston, texted me. You posed the question. All right, if the Padres won every game, which there were, 11 games left?
There's now 11 games left.
So,
and I said, that doesn't get them to the playoffs. They still need help. And I estimated, I think between like 25 and 40% chance I think they'd have to make the playoffs. So that was just my gut feeling based on what other teams would have to do and how often it would occur.
So Craig texted me, he said, answering the stat question Ben was just posing. A statistician on Reddit did 1 million simulations of the rest of the season. 1 million. Padres winning out happened 0.03% of the sims.
Right, tiny amount of time. We knew that part was the most unlikely.
And then our beloved Benny, so quick on his feet. In the sims where they won out, they made the playoffs in 28% of them.
All right.
So even if they won every single game,
1 in 4 chance.
28% chance, yeah,
to make the playoffs.
Yeah. Man, what I can't allow myself to do, which I've been doing, is going back over the mental checklists of the ones that just got away. Like last night was one that almost got away. We've had so many of those. Well, I was at that I went to, I think, 2 games in that Royals series, and the thought of that makes me want to literally fall on a sword. Like, just put a sword up and just fall on it.
People made fun of me because when they were up 11-3, I texted about, looks like it's not going to be another 1 or 2 run win for the Padres. And it ended up being a 2-run win, and I was fine being wrong about that because it showed how strange it is that the Padres never win a close game. Yeah. Close games, people think, oh, you scored 1 run late to win by 1. That's not how close games always work. Sometimes you blow a 6-run lead and you win by 1.
Yeah.
And even the Padres don't do that. It's weird how they almost never win by 1 or 2 runs. It was the first 2-run win since July. And they only have one run win in their last, I think it was 37 victories or something. It's pretty nuts. All right, before we get out the passes, let's go out to the phones. Josh has been waiting, wants to talk Padres here with Ben and Woods on 97.3 The Fan. Good morning, Josh.
Good morning, guys. How are you?
Good, man. How are you?
Doing great. Hey, culture has been the key word for months, if not years, with this team. And culture is not that difficult. The problem with culture is you have to have leadership, right? Right. But you can't have leadership that isn't empowered. And it's so obvious and it's so easy to see that we bring in a great leader like Melvin, and he's just cut down at the knees. He's not empowered to do what he knows how to do. And every time Manny has a bad day, Manny goes and cries to the GM. And then the GM gives Manny how many hundreds of millions of dollars? It's so obvious that AJ needs to go and that AJ is the problem, that it's that simple. And so whoever comes in his place, which probably won't happen, could simply empower Melvin to do what he knows how to do and tell some of these prima donnas sitting on our bench to get their you-know-what in gear, and then we have a winning baseball team. But AJ can't let that happen. So that's what I got.
Josh, good call.
It
is rare to see in sports where you have like a longtime powerful GM and also a powerful coach. Eventually, Bill Belichick wants to have control over the personnel. He may be the coach, but he wants the say. He wants to be the guy. You can really only have the guy in a sports organization for the most part. Now, they all have GMs and coaches. Pretty much every sport, football, baseball, they're there. But to have 2 like alpha leader personalities in those positions is rare. Usually it's if it's a big time coach, then the GM's kind of in the background and he's pushing the papers around and helping make the moves, but the coach is the guy. Other organizations, you've got the GM's the guy, and they hire a young, less empowered coach, and all the leadership comes from the top. Both ways are successful. They've been successful in sports. You don't always have to have a big-time coach. You don't always have to have a big-time GM, but you rarely can have both at the same time. Someone has to step back a little bit, for the good of an organization. Would you say that?
Yeah. I mean, somebody does, and usually, I mean, I can always see the point of everybody wanting to be the person that turns it around instead of, if I owned a baseball team, do you think I would be a meddlesome owner? I feel like I kind of would be. As much as I want to think that I wouldn't be, and I'd sit up in my ivory tower and look down on all of the things that are mine, right? I did this. All these people here. This is amazing. I think it would get to you after a while. And you're like, why did we go to Honeywell there? I feel like I would be that way.
What is the best owner in sports? Is it the one that it's just a business to them and they hire people to do all of the job?
That sucks too. Think about the Mariners, right?
Right.
Their ownership isn't invested necessarily in winning. I think Peter Seidler could be. I think you could paint Peter Seidler as one of the best owners in sports because he said, look, I want to win. I want to have a culture of winning. I want long sustained winning. It hasn't happened yet, but I think, I'll open my checkbook. I'll let my GM make a ton of mistakes, spend a lot of money.
I'm trying to think of the only owner, passionate, involved owner that has won and been successful I can think of is the Mavericks and Mark Cuban.
And even they won one, and
he's as meddlesome as it gets.
He's had a lot of issues that seemed like they've hurt the team as well.
You talked about the Mariners owner. I think they're still owned by Nintendo or the people that run Nintendo. They've never been to a game.
Right. They wouldn't know where the ballpark is.
It is literally just money to them.
Yeah.
And then there's, Jerry Jones maybe is on the far other side.
Stalking the sidelines.
Is it somewhere in the middle? Where's the balance? What makes
no one
the
who
best
cares
owner?
passionately, though, can really totally be
Step
hands
back.
off at the same time.
I mean, imagine if you owned the team. Imagine if you owned the team. I'd be a wreck.
Yeah.
I'd be a wreck. Peter, he's got the temperament for it, certainly. Doesn't get too high, doesn't get too low. Willing to take some chances, willing to open the checkbook, willing to go against the grain in a quote-unquote small market that just, by the way, surpassed 3 million in attendance. Congratulations, Padre fans. That's a banner I'm happy to hang as a Padre fan. I think that's a big one. I think we should all pat ourselves on the back for that one. But I don't know what the perfect combo is. I mean, who in baseball...
George Steinbrenner won a ton of championships.
He was the worst, man.
You can't put him as the pinnacle of being a great owner, though.
I mean, he was the worst. So indecisive. You're hired. You're fired. Never mind. You're hired again. No. I'm going to fire you now. No, I'm bringing this guy in. He's fired. You're back.
I mean, the Giants won. The San Francisco Giants won 3 in 5 years.
Yep.
Never really heard much about their owner.
No, never really did. Who was the architect of those teams? The general manager when they were on their run. I can't remember. It escapes me right now. Was it
Sabian?
Was it Sabian?
Yeah. It was Sabian.
Yeah.
Sabi Sabster.
Sabi Sabster. So we all try to, you all try to emulate and the Dodgers are doing this. We got to do this. Oh, the Rays are doing this. We should get to this 5 years later. But the Padres have traditionally been a little bit slow to adapt in some of these moves. So I don't know, man. I don't know what's going to happen. I have no idea. But this can't be good. This can't be good for AJ Preller. You know that Peter's read it. You know that everybody in the front office has read it. They're probably listening right now. It's not a good day for AJ Preller. It's the second one of these he's had written about him. It sucks. It sucks for him. It sucks. But nothing changes unless, and I'm not saying, when I say nothing changes if nothing changes, I'm not saying you got to can him. I'm saying he needs to change potentially based on these last two. I've got, Paulie printed them out. I mean, I've got a novella here of indictments, against the GM right now.
Maybe they all just need to get to Power Trip together and have a nice, festival experience in the offseason. You can call now. We're giving away a pair of 3-day passes to Power Trip featuring Guns N' Roses, Iron Maiden, AC/DC, Judas Priest, Metallica, and Tool. Get your tickets now at powertrip.live or win them by being the fifth caller at 833-288-0973. Giveaway number 2 today, right now, here from Bennett Woods, and we'll be back with the voice of the Padres, Jesse Agler. At least he's getting to call some wins lately. Fun for Jesse. The Incorporator next here on 97.3 The Fan. by the Old Town San Diego Chamber of Commerce. Get ready for a culinary extravaganza in historic Old Town San Diego. Join us on Thursday, September 21st from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. Indulge in rich flavors and diverse cuisines at participating restaurants. Tickets available now at tasteofoldtown.org. Prepare your taste buds for an unforgettable journey at Taste of Old Town San Diego. All right, speaking of journeys, he's just back from a very long road trip. Called his 5th straight win last night at Petco Park. Jesse Agler joins us right after this check of traffic on 97.3 The Fan.
From the premier Buick GMC of Carlsbad Traffic Center, part of the Premier Auto Family, here's Kelly Danick.
Traffic is sponsored by Air Max, San Diego's highest-rated heating and air conditioning company. Still a bit of a challenge on a couple of our roads this morning, guys. Northbound side of the 5 before East Street, a crash blocking the 2 right lanes. Westbound 52 past the 125, a collision involving several vehicles. That's over the left shoulder. Up ahead, an accident clearing near the 805. Coming down the coastline, southbound 5 before Cannon, collision has been moved over to the right shoulder. Looking for the best in HVAC? Choose Air Max, San Diego's highest-rated heating and air company with free diagnostics on all repairs and estimates. See why over 1,100 happy customers have given Air Max 5-star Yelp reviews. See Air Max today at airmax.com. And Kelly Danick with Ben & Woods, San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan.
And as we welcome Jesse Agler to our premier Chevrolet of Carlsbad fan hotline, let's just get right into the most important question of the morning. When you get back from a long road trip, Jesse, do you unpack immediately, or
The answer's
do
yes.
you
I already
let
know the answer.
do you let the stuff sit in your suitcase for a while until eventually you kind of get around to unpacking everything?
It's a very sort of variable situation, right? It
Ooh.
depends what time we get back. It depends, how quickly we have to leave again, because laundry is always the primary consideration, right? Like, do I need to really get myself in gear when it comes to laundry, or do I have a couple of days to play with? So look, early in the season, you try and stay on top of it, and you think to yourself, oh, I'm going to unpack as soon as I get home. But sometimes we get home at, midnight, 1 in the morning. I'm not going to start unpacking while everybody's asleep. So it's all over the map. By the end of the season, there's a lot of suitcases lying around. That's something I'll cop to.
I got dragged by my beloved missus last night on Twitter for not unpacking for about 36 hours to where she just finally did it, Jesse, which is why we wanted to ask you the question in case you missed her very public dragging of me last night. But I wanted
suitcase shaming. I feel like as a society, we need to move past suitcase shaming.
Yeah, I agree.
Tell your lovely wife.
I agree. One more road trip for you guys, man. 11 games left to go. Hottest team in baseball, though, right now. Nobody's won. We have currently the longest win streak.
Active win streak.
Feels great. 11 to go, Jesse. I know that you are a one game at a time kind of guy as well. But when this season ends, what is in store for Jesse Agler?
I mean, it's kind of the same thing every year, right? Like, the first thing you do is you take a big, deep breath, and then you sort of reintroduce yourself to your family because they don't necessarily remember who you are. And then it's really weird because it is two extremes. It's like you go from having this thing to do almost every single day for 7 months to not having that thing to do. And so, there's definitely kind of like a reorientation into your family and into sort of like your normal life. You can start scheduling normal things, a lot of doctor's appointments, catch up on that kind of stuff. It's sort of like, you go from being extremely busy with work to being extremely busy with life. So you kind of swing from one pole to the other. It's definitely something that's a little bit of a learned skill, I would say, that I've gotten better at as time has gone on. But it's neat because my son is now old enough where he sort of has like a sense of it. And he's excited. He's like, oh, you're going to be here every day.
Yeah.
It kind of blows his mind. So that's, one of the silver lining situations, I guess, for right now. But definitely a long season. I mean, I went to Peoria, I think the day after Valentine's Day, and really haven't had a normal couple of days outside of the All-Star break since. So obviously I would love for this team to pull off a miracle here, have a little October baseball. I've said to a bunch of people lately, just kind of reminiscing on last year, I don't know, and in fact, I do know, I've never had the kind of fun professionally that I had in the postseason last year.
No question.
It was as good as it has ever been. Tony and I have kind of waxed nostalgic about it to each other a little bit the last couple of weeks. We just had such a blast. So definitely a bummer that it's not looking like it's going to happen, but that is life, that is sports, and as I often say, just when you think you know something about baseball, it smacks you in the face to remind you that you don't know nothing at all.
Jesse, I would think that the last few days have been enjoyable as well. And not only because they've been winning. Obviously, winning is more fun than losing. But after a season in which, it's essentially been the same guys out there for the first 140 games or so, you've had some different faces, different stories to tell and talk about. Guys who have been in the lineup that haven't been there as much. Eggy Rosario and Matt Batten and Luis Campusano has come on in the second half. And for a broadcaster, I'd guess that a little freshness is sometimes a good thing here in September.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the fun parts of the job, right? It's like telling different people's stories. And so, yeah, the winning is a big part of what makes it fun, and I imagine, enjoyable for the fans as well. But there's no doubt, and look, each of those stories is a little bit different. What they might mean for the long term is a little bit different. Same thing with some of these relievers. And, as I kind of like start to pull back a little bit and look at this season, we talked about it a bit last night, Tony and I on the air, like Tom Cosgrove, like that's a great story this year. This is a guy that, I don't know what they thought about in the front office, but I didn't really have much of a thought about Tom Cosgrove, back in spring training. I knew he was a guy. I knew he was a reliever. I knew he was from New York and that, he might get some innings this year. But, like, he has turned into a legitimate bullpen piece. And that kind of stuff happens every year. You never know who it's going to be. But it's really neat and fun to sort of watch a guy get an opportunity and grab an opportunity. And I think the other one for me, late this year, you mentioned him, Campusano. Look, you guys know I do not like playing general manager, especially this morning. I do not like playing scout. But I'll tell you what, man, like Luis Campusano looks like he's turning into something very, very special before our eyes. This is a guy that we've heard a lot about for the last couple of years, kind of a big prospect. He's been derailed by injuries. He's kind of lost opportunities, because of other reasons. Now that he's getting the chance to kind of be the guy here down the stretch, like, again, I hate being scout guy and trying to talk like I know what I'm, speaking about when it comes to, scouting and talent evaluation. But, like, he looks like a budding star to me. And whether that turns out to be the case, we'll see. But I just can't be more impressed, not only by the results, but it's the approach. And this guy, I think, is going to be a very, very big part of the future.
I love watching him hit. I do. I love watching him hit. I love his approach. We talked about it yesterday. We talked about it with Adam Jones. The first two swings are his. The last one is the team's, and I love that philosophy. And he really he plays that way. And by all accounts, too, I mean, the pitchers like throwing to him, and he's come a long way. I mean, he's come a long way. He's overcome a lot. Some of it self-inflicted. Some of it, beyond his control. And he's overcome a lot. I'm really encouraged to see what he can do with a full season. And I know you hate playing GM, again, especially this morning. I know you have not done your reading yet, but I'm sure your phone's been blowing up. Listen, the article came out this morning. It's kind of the second article by the same writers, 2 years apart. And it begs the question, they talk about in the article, relationships being unfixable. And, my kind of theory, Jesse, is I think anything's fixable if people are willing to change. I wanted your kind of take on that. Do you feel like, an AJ Preller or a Bob Melvin can change at this point in their careers and lives?
I would think so. I think that's part of being an adult, right? Is like having to adjust to your circumstances and, kind of meeting in the middle or something along those lines. Now, look, sometimes you get oil and water. That is a scientific thing, right? And I guess that can happen with relationships as well. But, look, whenever stuff like this pops up, I always, try and tell people, think about your own workplace. There's always going, all this stuff that happens with the Padres, it gets written about publicly.
Yep.
But it's really, if you think about it, stuff that happens at everybody's job, right? So whether you're a UPS driver, whether you host a morning radio talk show, whether you're a teacher, whatever you might do, there's probably dynamics in these stories that are familiar to you from your own workplace. And yes, in theory, anybody should be able to change, adjust for the greater good. But does that always happen? Of course not, because we're human beings. We're not perfect creatures. And so, at the end of the day, there are people whose jobs exist basically to try and figure that stuff out. And if someone can't figure it on their own, then somebody figures it out for them. And what that means obviously can be any number of different things. But yeah, like you would like to think that, two adults can get together and say, hey, let's sit down and talk about this, and here's what we're going to do differently, and then follow through on that. But again, that's just not like always the reality of life, whether it's here, there, or anywhere else. So who knows, what happens. But I mean, in terms of this story, which I haven't read yet this morning, the one that came out the other day in the paper, which I have read, of course, this is what happens when a team with these kinds of expectations doesn't live up to those expectations. Like, this stuff is going to come out. This stuff happens on every team. This stuff happens more frequently, I would imagine, on teams that are struggling. And so then you can get into your chicken and egg conversation about culture and performance, right? But it is an industry in which secrets generally are not kept of this kind when things aren't going well. When things do go well, you don't hear about this stuff. So it doesn't make me freak out and ring, the 10-alarm fire bell or anything like that. It's just sort of the nature of professional sports is that, when a team does not meet or exceed its expectations very often, especially when the expectations are as lofty as this team's were, you're going to start hearing about stuff like this.
Talking to Jesse Agler. And Jesse, let me ask you about the other debate we had a little while ago. And I think there's arguments on both sides for this one, but some people say Manny should just shut it down immediately, get that tennis elbow surgery, get as much time as possible to recuperate and be ready for next season. Manny, of course, says, hey, we're not eliminated. I want to keep playing until it's officially done, even though we all know the chances are infinitesimal that the Padres could actually get to the playoffs at this point. That's not your incorporator word.
No.
Where do you kind of fall on those two sides?
Yeah, it like you said, it's a really good, sort of like, hey, I can make either argument kind of situation. My thought is, let's say, and I haven't done the elimination math, but let's say they hang on for a week, before they're mathematically eliminated, right? Okay, so it's next Tuesday. I'm in San Francisco. We're having a conversation, and maybe, the elimination number is 1, the tragic number is 1, or it's happened. Does this week make a huge difference in terms of when Manny's going to come back next season? Probably not at this point. It's not like we all hear something, right, from an athlete, and it's 6 months, 6 to 7 months.
Yeah, he said it.
He said it.
Yeah.
It could be 5. It could be 8. It's such an imprecise thing to forecast, particularly before the procedure has even been done. We don't even know what the procedure is yet. We haven't heard what kind of surgery it is. So, will the 5, 7, 8 days now necessarily and automatically mean 5 or 7 or 8 days longer on the back end? Not necessarily. That's a little bit too literal, I think, of a look at this situation. But generally, is there an argument to be made for, hey, now means sooner? Sure. But I don't know that it's as big of a thing as possible. I understand where Manny's at. If he's physically able to continue to give it a go here, then that if that's going to be his choice, I get it. I get where he's coming from, and I mean he's still hitting the ball pretty hard, and they are still in it. So he wants to be there for his team. I can appreciate that.
Yeah, I mean it's a good point. We don't even real world concerns. The surgeon they want to do it may not be available for 4 or 5 days, so you don't even know all the things that are going on. All right, we're down to the last couple incorporators of the year. I always like to go with food-related ones, just like the first one, mayonnaise, got us all started several years ago. So, Paulie, if you will give Jesse his incorporator word that he has to work into tonight's broadcast with Tony Gwynn Jr.
Fiddlehead.
Fiddlehead. Is that
Jesse? A soup?
It can be. It's the furled frond of a young fern harvested for use as a vegetable. So before it turns into a frond, it's curled up into a little looks like the top of a fiddle actually, and that's why they call it a fiddlehead. But you can eat it. You can saute it or put it in a soup or do whatever you want. It's a fiddlehead, and that's your incorporator word for tonight.
Is it related to a hearts of palm? Is it
a little
that
bit?
Kind of...
Yeah. Good thinking.
Okay.
Yeah, it's definitely on the. Yeah, the bracken family of harvestable foods.
You had it?
I don't think I've ever eaten fiddleheads. They look weird. They look strange.
I'm excited to get a look at it. This will be our final radio incorporator.
Oh, your TV next week?
Next Tuesday.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right.
So we'll make it strong.
Good luck, Jesse, tonight.
Thank you, buddy.
Hey, 6 in a row, and Blake Snell on the mound and going for a Cy Young Award. We'll all be tuned in.
Looks good to me. Enjoy it, guys.
Thanks, brother.
Jesse Agler on our Premier Chevrolet of Carlsbad fan hotline. Save money the right way with Premier Chevrolet of Carlsbad. Visit them today in the Carlsbad Auto Mall Chevrolet Find New Roads. Kind of looks like a twisting okra almost. It's weird. It's definitely odd.
I grew up in the. Are you an okra fan?
Fried okra is not bad.
See,
but nothing's really that bad when it's deep fried.
Yeah. Exactly.
So I grew up in the South. They you eat it from birth. I've always hated it. Fried okra.
Slimy. If it's done poorly, it can be very slimy and unappealing.
But I like pickled okra. The whole stalk, pull it out, it's pickled, and you just all down the hatch. Phenomenal. I've not had it in years. Years. I hadn't even thought about okra. I've always hated the name too. You want me to make you some okra? Okra. I don't. I'm good. You can say more okra for you.
Good crossword puzzle word.
Okra.
Well. Yeah.
O-K-R-A.
O-K-R-A.
Yeah.
But this is fiddlehead. And that's the incorporator word for today.
All right, buddy.
All right, we got an hour left. We've had some good reaction. We got some Padres tickets to give away.
Let's get some more calls, too. I want some more calls later.
Paulie has something about going commando in the Reindl Report. That's odd. All right, we'll get to that coming up next with Ben and Woods on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Final hour of Ben and Woods here on a Tuesday. I did get an answer to a question you asked yesterday that I had no answer to. You were wondering, why are they doing two different Monday Night Football games?
I didn't.
And staggering
John
them,
did down the hall.
at different times? Well, we talked about it. And it is basically an experiment by ESPN, ABC, and the NFL to see if they can maximize viewership. You know, they play a lot of games at the same time on Sundays, and we don't complain about that at all. We got Red Zone. We like having multiple games on at the same time.
Oh, yeah.
And they felt like, well, I mean, people are going to watch on Sundays no matter what. We can take one game away, and let's do two on Mondays and see if that ramps up some of the viewership. So they're studying all the numbers. Next week, they're going to do the same, but the opposite. ABC will have the early game, and then ESPN will have the game that starts an hour later.
Oh, it's another doubleheader.
It's another doubleheader overlapping next week.
Because I saw ABC also picked up a bunch of games to simulcast on Monday.
And
so
then,
it'll be the same game on ESPN and on locally here Channel 10 because of the writer's strike.
Yeah, so that after next week, the ABC games were supposed to go away for a while. They were going to have a couple later in the season, but because they are so low on new programming because of the Hollywood writers' strike, they said, well, the Monday Night Football games do well on ABC, so let's simulcast those and get a more audience for that. So yeah, we'll have weekly Monday Night Football games on Channel 10 now, I think for the rest of the season at this point.
So they're doubling up?
Not every week.
Okay.
Some will be just the one game on both channels, but next week they're doubling up again. The late game I know is Rams-Bengals.
Okay, that'll
is
be
the
good.
5:15 game on ESPN, and the early game next week, I've forgotten what the matchup is, but they'll look at the data and figure out, well, which one works better, time-wise, and how it all starts. So it's a bit of a TV experiment involving us as the viewer and how we respond to it and what we like and don't like about the Monday Night Football overlapping doubleheader. So that's why they did that.
I watched a little bit of both games last night and watched, of course, the horrific injury to Nick Chubb.
But they didn't ever show it. Which
yeah.
you can say is a good or a bad thing. What do you think?
Well, I'll tell you
replay.
what. When they said it, it made me perk up. When Joe Buck said, we just got word. We're not going to show that. It really was too bad to show on television. And I'm like, somebody tweeted, you guys showed DeMar Hamlin dead on the field for a long time. And this, it was a gnarly injury. I mean, it was a gnarly injury. Got caught in between a couple of defenders. Leg went completely the opposite way. He's people said, pray that it's just a season-ending injury because it's the same knee he had reconstructed while at Georgia. Nick Chubb, I think, is one of the best dudes in the NFL. A really, really fun guy to watch, fun guy to root for, easy guy to root for. And what a tough scene for him last night, man. And
listen. Here's from the broadcast.
Yeah, the broadcast. The
they
groan.
showed it in the stadium.
Yeah, they showed it in the stadium.
There were two angles.
I went to Twitter and found it and almost threw up.
ESPN, if you were watching at home, they showed one angle throughout the rest of the game, but they said there was another angle. We're not showing that one. If you go online, you can find it because they did show it in the stadium. And just listen to the crowd react when they show.
By the way,
that
these are
angle.
Steelers fans, not Browns fans.
Yes, in Pittsburgh.
I am told that the replay of Nick Chubb getting injured is not to be seen. Yeah, we're not going to show it. It's as bad as you can imagine.
Ooh, man, it was.
No, I have not seen it online, so I haven't seen it at all. I've never seen it, which is why I feel like the broadcast needs to show it once, not repeatedly, and give it a warning and go, hey, if this is something that turns your stomach, look away for a second. But I do feel like in the course of a broadcast and showing what's going on, you need to show it once, just so we all understand what we're dealing with.
It was bad. That's all you need to know. It was very,
really,
very,
bad.
very bad, and will make you.
You knew his season was over.
It will make you pucker.
This is the second major.
Now I feel
injury
guilty
to that
though.
leg.
Like I don't want to search it out. Like that feels like gruesome. Like you're just chasing injuries. I don't want to do that. So I'll probably never see it now.
If you scroll Twitter, you'll see it.
No, but I don't want to look for it. I feel like that's That's like I'm trying to entertain myself at Nick Chubb's expense, and I'd feel bad about that. I don't want to do that.
Nobody at Ben Higgins on Twitter with the video.
Yeah, I don't want to accidentally
find it right now and show it to him. See if we can make him throw up on the air.
No, well, I don't get queasy when I see that sort of thing.
You want me to show it to you?
No, because that feels gratuitous.
You're not looking
it up. You didn't do it.
But I think showing it once on the broadcast would have been appropriate, and then not showing it ever again.
Well, we're on a broadcast right now.
We are on a broadcast right now.
Yeah.
You're going to show it to me.
I'm going to show you the video.
My first natural reaction, because I only saw it live.
Oh, dude. I just caught a glimpse of it again. And
Yeah,
it
I saw
made
it from
me,
like way over here.
It made me shiver.
Oh, God.
Well, and again, it brought out the point, the much talked about point in the offseason of, well, now, so somebody made the point, well, now you see why running backs were fighting so hard for guaranteed money, and somebody made the counterpoint, now you see why owners don't want to pay running backs guaranteed money. Talk about a stalemate. You know what I mean? Talk about a stalemate. Like, you look at it, you're the owner, you're like, see? If you're the running backs, you're like, see? How do you win that battle? There's no winner.
Yeah, it's a no-win situation.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. All right, Paulie, take us away.
And get things started here with our today's edition of the Reindl Report.
Now tuned into the greatest.
Welcome to the Reindl Report with Paul Reindl.
Hi, Paul.
All right.
2 stories from the world of sports that we haven't gotten to yet.
We'll start off in Major League Baseball.
And 1 story that you didn't know you needed.
Are you laughing, biatch?
It's the Reindl Report.
Hey, Paul, how you doing?
Okay, how are you?
On 97.3 The Fan.
Are you ready to bless the mood? I need some help, please.
That was good.
Can I get a yeah? Oh, yeah.
All right.
Boom.
All right.
Take it away.
All right. I will. Gentlemen, we'll start off in the NFL. Another big day for Patrick Mahomes. I think we just had one of these not too long ago when he signed his deal, but he restructured his contract, which scored him a historic payday. He's going to get now $210 million between 2023 and 2026. That's the most money in NFL history over a 4-season span. That's now guaranteed money, according to what his agent told Adam Schefter. They're going to revisit the agreement again after that 2026 season. And basically, it's just kind of moving money around. It made a lot more guaranteed for him. And it's going to, I guess, give some flexibility down the road for the franchise.
I wish I understood how capology works. I don't.
Very...
I will never learn. I have no desire to learn. If ESPN said we'll give you $1 million to be our capologist, I would say, nope, I'm good.
So in 2020,
I have no desire.
Right before the 2020 season, Mahomes signed a 10-year, $450 million contract. So now we're, 2 full seasons down. They've restructured, basically just give him a boatload of money guaranteed, and then they're going to restructure again in what will be after the 6th year of his 10-year contract.
At least it makes sense now that Patrick Mahomes is now arguably the highest paid player in football, at least on a per season basis. It's weird when you say, well, Deshaun Watson or Joe Burrow is the highest paid player. We all kind of know who the best quarterback is right now.
Well, especially Deshaun Watson, for the love of God, man. $230 million deal.
Nobody has topped the overall, the $450 million mark that Mahomes got. But since he signed that, as far as average annual salaries, Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts, Justin Herbert, and Joe Burrow have all surpassed him. So
I love what Clark Hunt, the Chiefs owner, said. Don't you?
Continue? Well, I didn't hear it.
Yeah, you did.
No, I didn't.
That he's going to be underpaid no matter what they give him.
Oh, no, I didn't hear
that. Yeah. It's acknowledging that it's good.
It is good.
I like what Jerry Jones said.
What did Jerry Jones say?
I'm just messing with you. All right, moving on. Saw this story. Michael McCarthy from Front Office Sports reported yesterday that Blenders, the San Diego-based sunglasses brand. They're behind the Deion Sanders Prime line. They originally
They're
sought out...
retired now, right? Like after
We did a story on this last night on Channel 10. Jeff Lasky, my colleague, actually did a whole thing on the Blenders owner and Deion. It was interesting.
It says Blenders originally sought out to sell 16,000 pairs. That was kind of their mark. They've now sold between 67,000 and 72,000 pre-orders.
Oh my God!
And at $67 a pop, Deion has brought in, it says, $4.5 million in sales at minimum.
So the company reached out to him and said, these are your signature. So he gets a taste of this, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I think
you don't just give him
it's an endorsement and a partnership. The story that Jeff did last night said, the Blenders owner reached out and they just thought Deion would be a great pitch man for their sunglasses because it just felt like his style of sunglasses. And they called, and it was right as he was taking the Colorado job. And Deion said, actually, we're looking for a sunglass deal right now. So the timing was just very fortuitous. And then the whole thing with, Jay Norvell, the coach of Colorado State, comes out saying it's disrespectful not to take the sunglasses. And Deion starts giving away on ESPN, and players are wearing them. And
man.
I mean, what an unbelievable confluence of events.
No kidding.
From a business perspective for this the guy who owns Blenders sunglasses.
How do you think I would look in those blenders? I know
you'd be okay.
You think?
Yeah, I think you could pull it off more than I could for sure.
That would be something I need to see.
Adam, we're going to need, 67 times 3?
Yeah,
have to at least find out.
I'm going to start a company that makes blenders called Sunglasses.
Who are you going to get to endorse that one?
Martha Stewart.
Check out my new blender line from, our company, Sunglasses. Sunglasses Inc. What do you guys do? We make blenders.
Oh, my God.
He looks cool as hell in them. I'll say that.
Oh, yeah.
He looks really cool in them. I don't think I could pull them off, man. I think if Paulie walked in them, I feel my natural inclination would be to make fun of him.
67's a pretty good price point. It's not
bad at all.
You see sunglasses are $200-$300. It's like
Mrs. Wood's new addiction, by the way.
No.
Good God.
Those always feel like I'm one wrong move away from sitting on them, and it's never worth that much.
I've been a knock-around guy since I moved here.
I had a couple of nice pairs of sunglasses. One time my car got broken into. The other time I broke them or something. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. I'm not doing this anymore.
I think I spent $250 on a pair of sunglasses once. I had Ray-Bans or something. I had them for 3 weeks. Lost them, left them behind, left them at somebody's house, gone, never to be seen again.
I get the $25 ones on Knock Around or whatever.
I love it.
The Polarized.
And I buy like 4 at a time. I'm like, this is great. And then I have one in the car, one in my bag.
Another local brand, right?
Yeah. Knock Around's local. There are certain guys that can pull like Tatis when he started wearing the big. Remember when we had Ben in the big? I don't even know what they're called. But then I started going to adult.
The Oakleys, they're the wraparounds.
But they're huge, though.
They're really
like,
big ones.
like ski goggles.
Yeah, there's a picture of me in them.
Yes. Yeah. And then I would start going to my adult league games on Sunday and seeing Dip S's on the other team and wearing them. And I'm like, oh, wow. Nope. Those aren't for everyone. That is not a good look for you, buddy. They're not made for guys that are 260. Like, it's just not your look.
All right, speaking of not our look, got a story here that a new poll went out, and 40% of people, it was asked about going commando in your day-to-day. And about a third of Americans say that they regularly go commando. I thought that was strangely high.
Everyone knows what that means.
How much?
A third of Americans regularly go commando.
Sans underwear.
Yes.
40% say they never go commando. 7% say they always go commando.
Wow.
But, 10% said often. Some said sometimes. It was roughly about 35% say that regularly they go out to their day-to-day commando.
My wife is saying in the chat that she says commando for sure, but I don't buy it. This is news to me.
I think my wife
commando
does somewhat often. I never do.
I have.
I have, like, out of
What about even
lack
like
of
like at
underwear
home?
at the time.
Like if
See,
you're in
that
like
doesn't
sweat
count.
shorts to sleep in.
I don't think that counts.
I always have underwear under what I'm wearing.
I get out of
Always.
the shower, I put on underwear,
Yeah.
and then I put on shorts.
Yeah.
And then I take the
Like,
shorts off to sleep.
virtually 100% of the time.
Other
than when
I'll
I'm
throw on,
bathing.
like, I'll come out of the shower and throw on sweats or something.
Or like a bathing suit that has the built-in underwear in
The-
it.
the net?
Obviously,
I
yes,
hate
the net.
The
I like
netting.
to cut the net out.
Really?
Yes. I don't
Then
like
you go
the net.
commando
I
in
guess
those
I go commando in
swimsuits.
those.
I get
yeah.
board
Without
shorts
the
without
net.
the nets. I just skip it entirely. But
I like the
as far
support
as
the net provides.
I think when I
When you're swimming laps?
Yeah.
Butterfly, breaststroke. You don't want anything flopping around. down there.
exactly.
Then you should wear a Speedo.
I think going commando though means like getting dressed for the day to go to work or something.
Yeah, like I put my
leaving
jeans
the house
on
for the
with
day.
no underwear.
Oh.
I've done it. It's terrible.
Does not sound appealing at all.
It's pretty hot when women do. I'll say that.
Hannah says
Do you
you don't
know
wear
it, though?
you don't
How
wear
do you
underwear
know
with
it?
yoga pants.
Yeah, you don't wear it with yoga.
People don't wear a sign around that says "I'm going commando" right now. You should never know someone's going commando.
Well, it would take some intimacy, and then you're like, oh, you don't. Oh,
Nothing there.
I was expecting another layer, and there's not one.
Surprise!
Surprise! I'm all in. I like
We've
that.
saved 4 seconds.
I'm all in.
4 seconds can be used elsewhere.
Yeah. 4 seconds, very valuable. Thank you, Paulie.
Oh, you're welcome.
There's a lot of people running around without undies on.
Yeah.
And of course, I believe the expression is in the military that has been a common practice.
Going that's where
underwear.
it comes from. Commando.
Marines and going commando.
You get chafed, I feel like.
I would think so too.
I think so.
But then again, I get chafed.
I'm
wearing
wearing- I do, too.
underwear, too.
I'm wearing
I do, too.
soft
Me too.
joggers right now. I bet I could have gotten away with it, but I just feel weird.
It does. You feel like a deviant if you're sitting. If you were sitting, let's make a show rule. Always wear underwear in here, all right? Because that'll make everybody at ease a little bit.
I have no problem following
Deal.
that rule.
Okay, thank you. Forever.
I think everybody in the studio, Coach, Gwen, Chris, Scraby,
Please.
Yes.
If I hear that Scraby is sitting over there without underwear, I'm going to lose my mind.
Braden,
Burn this chair.
Chris Ello sitting in that chair, sans
Adam,
underwear.
I really want everyone at the workplace to wear underwear.
Post it on the door. You can't come in
memo.
here unless you have
Odyssey,
underwear on.
Odyssey Company memo.
The only
Please
person
wear underwear.
The only person on this staff that would look good without underwear is Tony Gwynn Jr. That's it. He's the only one that can get away with it. The rest of us, disgusting. Absolutely. Absolutely disgusting. Layer up, all of you. That's not a request. That's an order. That's an order.
And I don't think that's asking too much.
If you want me gone, start coming out in here in your cargo shorts and no underwear. I'm out. I will be doing the show from home. Good Lord. All right, let's get back to
All
it.
right, we got a Padres ticket giveaway. Last homestand of the season. Last chance to get out to Petco Park. We'll give away some Padres tickets. Coming up next here with Ben and Woods on 97.3 The Fan. Be back after traffic.
Man, we've gone national, fellas. Not we. San Diego Padres are now being. I just was scrolling through Twitter and talking baseball, which is one of the podcasts from John Boy and his crew up in New York. The headline of the tweet is, "Some Padres players think there's a New Zealand man spying on them." Oh my God! Talking, of course, about Don Tricker, who was referenced in the piece by Dennis Lin this morning in The Athletic with Ken Rosenthal. Really, really, really good piece. I mean, I say good in good journalism. Bad content, if you're a San Diego Padres fan, does leave you scratching your head a lot, leaves you feeling a little bit hopeless and helpless, I think.
I will say that, and I'm not trying to be apologetic for what has not gone well for the Padres. Anything that you try that is new and unorthodox, until it works, it looks kind of crazy. Like, what are you doing? You're hiring a rugby coach to come in and look at your baseball team? Well, no wonder that's not working. That's crazy. But other teams that have done unorthodox things in baseball.
Dion's pretty unorthodox.
They were criticized in the beginning, and then all of a sudden, hey, it's working, and it becomes copied by everybody else.
That being said, if Dion didn't win a game or won 2 games a year till 2029, then I think you could probably take a look at it. That's been the length of Don Tricker's tenure here. It's not all on Don Tricker, certainly. I did not know Don Tricker before this season. He'd been here for 5 years at that time. So, but yeah, certainly a name that's been talked about and kicked around a little bit this season. And you know, you do feel like, I love the idea, man. Like I said, I read that book about the All Blacks, the rugby team in New Zealand, and I think it's fantastic. And I tried to take some of that in my personal life. It's a really good, motivating book. But I was reading, and I had to laugh a little bit in the article. They were talking about how Don came in, and he's like, I don't know why you don't simulate pregame what they're going to see in the real game. So if a guy throws 100, shouldn't you be ramping up in the cages at 100? And I thought to myself, let me play that one through and think that through a little bit. You know, it's probably the pregame in basketball, kind of loose. You could almost say even kind of lazy. You know,
get
just kind of
shots,
getting loose, getting the feel.
50% layup line.
It's more a version of stretching than preparing.
Just kind of getting ready. I was at the Notre Dame game. We had really good seats. I was right there watching the Irish warm up. What they didn't do was Sam Hartman didn't drop back, and they had a D lineman come in and absolutely pummel him into the ground before a game. You don't.
Sounds like rugby preparation.
And so in baseball, though, the other thing I was thinking about, I think there's probably a time and a place for, hey, you know what? This cat, Bobby Miller's on the bump. That cat brings it. I want to see a little extra velo today. I don't know that you can mandate it for 162 because you're not going to see that velo every day. The other thing I was thinking about, the thing that I love about baseball is that nothing comes close to 162. Nothing. There's nothing that comes close. You know, go play 8 games at fantasy camp and tell me how you feel after, and you can be in great shape, and you're still sitting there going, oh my God, my feet, my arm, my back. It's a grind. It's a mental grind. It's a physical grind. You're not typically going to come away from a season with deep bone bruises and broken arms. It happens, but
I mean, even in golf, as as laid back and unathletic as that sport appears to be, I've heard professional golfers talk about, you play 4 rounds in a row in a PGA tournament, then you do it again the next week and the next week. It's a lot more physical than you'd expect. Even just the walking of the courses. They're talking about this Ryder Cup course up and down the hills.
Gnarly.
It's not something that you can just dismiss out of hand. And that 162 point that you made is very different. I mean, football is obviously much more physical and takes a more demanding injury toll on players per game. But they don't play every day. They don't play 162 of them.
And I looked
over 6 months.
So I went and I looked and I said, well, what is his background? He was a professional softball player. I guess don't know how many games they played. I don't know what New Zealand professional softball looks like. Forgive me. But I did look at what the All Blacks play, and there were varying reports, but it said anywhere from about 15 to 22 games a season. So a lot like American football. Like the toll on your body is so much. You need to prepare your body for the train wreck that's coming every week. Baseball's not that way. And we talk about it ad nauseum on this show. We used to talk about Tommy Pham. Bro, you're batting 200. Maybe hitting 200 balls off the tee isn't what you need. Maybe you need to dial it back. They always say do less, do less. Just kind of get in the flow of the game. And I think that's why you'll see 85 in batting practice
now,
instead of 100.
Now, the Padres have ramped up velocity
Sure.
training in recent years. And, I mean, you got to figure that it's had a huge impact on, like, Ha-Seong Kim.
No doubt.
Who is absolutely improved immensely against the higher velocity pitches. That is clear in his numbers. So, again, like all these discussions we've had, it's not so simple as, one guy is the problem or one guy is the solution. It's how is it all melting together, and are you able to all make it work with a variety of different perspectives and personalities? And so far, the Padres really haven't done a great job of making it work. Let's do one more segment on this, get some phone calls in. But right now, we're going to give away a pair of tickets to tomorrow's Padres Rockies series finale. You can cheer on the Padres at America's #1 ballpark. Enjoy some day baseball. First pitch set for 1:10 p.m. Tickets are available at Padres.com. You can call and win them, though. Fourth caller, 833-288-0973 will win the tickets to tomorrow's game, Padres Rockies. Hopefully going for a 7th win in a row tomorrow. They got to get number 6 tonight with Blake Snell on the mound. I would likely say his last home start of the year. Technically, he could go on 4 days rest on Sunday, but they have a day off, so likely his last home start, maybe in a Padres uniform
Maybe
today.
ever. Yeah.
This is going for a Cy Young Award now, the clear favorite after Justin Steele was lit up in his last start on Friday. See if he can get through the Rockies today and get the Padres a 6th straight win. We'll wrap it up. One more segment talking about the athletic piece and AJ Preller and the Padres next with Bennett Woods on 97.3 The Fan. Congratulations to Luis. Wins the pair of Padres tickets for tomorrow's game. Series finale against the Colorado Rockies. Day baseball. Of course, you'll hear it all here on 97.3 The Fan. We got a pregame show for you today at 5:40. 6:40, Blake Snell on the mound, trying to lock down that Cy Young Award. Ryan Feltner starting for the Rockies. Also have
Feltner, hardly know her.
Mission's playoff baseball tonight. San Antonio at Amarillo, Sammy's old team, the Sod Poodles, game 1 of the Texas League playoffs. And Robbie Snelling, Padres, one of their top pitching prospects, will be on the mound for the Missions in game 1 of the playoffs tonight, if you're looking down into the minor leagues for what's going on with your San Diego Padres. Just playing the It's Tricky for our Don Tricker conversation, the former rugby New Zealand All Blacks rugby team consultant who was hired by the Padres a few years ago. And again, I'm always a guy. I think that the best way to have success in professional sports is to think outside the box, try new things. I'm never going to criticize for someone taking a chance, because there are 30 teams or 32 teams, depending on your sport, who are mostly all doing the same thing at the same time. And it's really hard to separate yourself. If you're just going along with the herd, doing the same thing as everyone else, you may get lucky every once in a while, but the really way to separate yourself is to try and some risks and try some new things. So I'm okay with that. I do find it odd that until, like you said, this year, I hadn't even heard of this guy. If you were really excited about what you're doing and things are going well, wouldn't it be something you'd be talking about? Like we'd have heard the guy's name, maybe set him up with a nice feature, and on the radio or on television or in the newspaper in the last couple of years. Like, hey, here's what we're doing. We're excited about it. I would have done it day one.
Yeah, I would have been the first. I would have been, hey, this is something we're trying. We're bringing this guy in, and you saw the Giants when they brought in their 14 coaches and stuff. A big deal was made about that, and I think it worked for them. They won 100 and some odd games that year when they did that, and it's just interesting. It's interesting how organizations operate, and but 6 years. I've heard a lot of negative stuff come out now at this point, and hey, listen, and you think about some of the guys that have walked away or been sent away while he stays, and maybe a couple other guys were mentioned in that article as well. Look, it's a really well done piece by Dennis Lin, in my opinion. I read it first thing this morning. Couldn't believe it. Had no idea it was dropping. I checked the Athletic Pulse or whatever it's called. I get it in my email, and it was kind of buried down toward the bottom. And I said, what do you mean they dropped a new story? I clicked on it. I sent it to you guys at 4 a.m. Was like, strap in. And, read it when I got here, read it at home before I got dressed, and just my chin hit my chest. And, you know a lot of this stuff. You think you know a lot of this stuff. You hear about a lot of this stuff. And then to see it kind of confirmed, makes you like, all right, man, I kind of believe what I've heard.
There's also a real phenomenon. Baseball players, baseball coaches can sometimes be hard-headed and resistant to change and outside opinions. And that's not necessarily on the change agent. Sometimes you have to be willing to look at things in a different perspective, and that can be difficult in a clubhouse. Guys who are set in their ways, like, hey, I've prepared this way, I got to the big leagues this way, I don't want to change and do it differently, and that can be an issue as well. Just having a good message is one thing, but getting it to absorb, getting it across to people can be even harder than coming in with that new message to begin with. And if it's not working, even if you have the best advice in the world, if you can't get someone to take that advice or listen to you, then ultimately you've kind of failed in your objective.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm looking back toward, the Dennis and Ken Rosenthal both wrote a piece in 2021. And I'm looking at that as well. I mean, look, it's essentially, it's the same type of stuff. I mean, there's really some of the characters in the story have changed, but the overall sentiment still remains the same. And, when times get tough, I think the philosophy of AJ and crew is, hey, man, we're just going to work harder. We're going to work harder. We're going to, dig in, work harder. And it's hard to fault somebody for that, other than the results really haven't been there. They have not been there. So if you haven't read the piece, or if you have read the piece and want to talk about it, give us your thoughts. 833-288-0973. You can call us now. But I know, look, like I mentioned earlier, and I believe this, it's not a good day. It's not a good day to wake up and see an article written like that about you personally or the team which you've represented for 9 years. It's got to be a really tough pill to swallow.
Take a little check of traffic. We'll come back. This hour on 97.3 The Fan is brought to you by Hint Water. Hint Water, delicious fruit-infused water with no sugar or diet sweeteners. More than 25 amazing flavors, including watermelon and pineapple, in stores or delivered from hintwater.com. I'll tell you, there's two different ways this can now go after this article kind of came out. We'll discuss them after traffic here on 97.3 The Fan.
From the premier Buick GMC of Carlsbad Traffic Center, part of the Premier Auto family, here's Kelly Denick.
Traffic is sponsored by Ashley Furniture. Problems in the North County, guys. Southbound side of the 15, right before Center City Parkway, collision over the right shoulder. Up ahead before Mira Mesa Boulevard, another collision. That, too, is over to the right shoulder. Now collision on the coastline, southbound 5 at Encinitas Boulevard. A couple vehicles involved. They are in the center divide. Fall is almost here, and at Ashley, seasonal decorating is a breeze. Snuggle up on a sectional or ultra-modern sofa. Gather outside with a new fire pit or conversation set. Ashley has everything you'll need. Shop in-store or visit ashley.com today. I'm Kelly Danick with Ben & Woods, San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan.
So what happens next, Woods? There are just two possibilities. One, Peter Seidler decides to let AJ Preller go.
Yep.
And this essentially kind of goes away, at least for now, because there'll be a new general manager who comes in who will be given at least, an opportunity to do what he can do. There will only be limited moves that they can make, but they will talk about the culture changing and, coming in and, fresh start with the players and the coaches and maybe Bob Melvin sticking around. And we'll see what happens. It doesn't guarantee success, but that's probably the easy way out at this point, is to just make the change. Or AJ Preller stays. And then you have this hanging over the head of the organization going, all right, well, what are you doing then? We've read about what goes on behind the scenes. So how are you addressing all these issues that, this isn't just Dennis's or Ken Rosenthal's opinion. This is former players. This is current players, former coaches, other former executives who've worked in the front office with real tangible criticisms of things that they don't think the Padres have been doing well under AJ Preller. Now, some may have axes to grind, grudges, didn't like how they were treated. You can't just take them all at face value and say, oh, they're absolutely all right about AJ. But you've got this issue now floating out there that's not going to go away again if AJ is still the general manager. So what do you do if he sticks around and Peter Seidler sticks with AJ Preller? How do you address that in the offseason? Is it a press conference and then
Peter's never had a hard time expressing his thoughts about AJ Preller. Never. It has been a while since we've heard. I don't know where he stands today. I know that he's going through something way bigger than baseball right now, and that's where his head is probably at, and that's where his family's head is at, and that's where it should be.
Should be there.
That being said, he's never had a problem expressing, the confidence he has in AJ Preller. My gut tells me, honestly, nothing changes. My gut, I think, if I have to be honest with myself, I think based on some of the things that I've heard, some of the things that I read in that article, it's not what I want, but I think Bob Melvin's probably going to be the scapegoat for the season. And like I said before, I stand by it. I think that's malpractice.
That doesn't change anything.
Of the highest order.
Doesn't this article doesn't.
Oh, it changes everything, but I think in the wrong direction.
In the wrong direction, in my opinion, for whatever that's worth.
Let me add some questions, kind of rapid fire. Do you think Peter Seidler's mind is already made up on AJ Preller's future?
Yes.
It's a tough one to answer. I don't know.
Do you think this article changes anything?
No.
Do you think AJ's, has AJ already made his mind up on Bob Melvin?
Yes.
And does AJ have final say, or do you think
yes.
Peter would step in?
As a logical person, if AJ hires another manager, there's really no different directions to go now. You've hired every kind of manager pretty much there is. What are you going to say if you're AJ Preller? Why it didn't work? Oh, no, we need someone with less experience than Bob, but more experience than Jace with a different. I mean, you've tried it every way. So now, what's the argument you make for the next guy? The only thing you can really say is, well, it didn't really work out, so we're going to try something else.
Sure.
But you can't really logically tell me why Bob failed, why Jace failed, why Andy failed, and what's going to be different about anyone else you bring in into the organization.
And I feel like, man, if I'm AJ Preller this morning and I read this and I'm caught in the middle of this S storm, my first priority, honest to God, would be I got to make nice with Bob Melvin. Period. The end. Because I don't want to answer those effing questions.
If I was AJ Preller,
because it looks bad on him.
If I was AJ Preller, I would say I know my players like Bob Melvin, and I know we haven't won, but I feel like he's my best chance going forward, and I'm going to empower my manager even more. I'm going to sit him down and I'm going to go, I may have made some mistakes. If we're on the wrong page and we're not together, I want to fix that, and I want to empower you even more in your third season next year with the San Diego Padres, because I think you're the best chance we have to be successful. And that's what I would do if I was AJ Preller. Because
doesn't
otherwise,
it behoove AJ to do that?
That's what you say, but in reality, and this is just the way I think. My thought process would be, if I fire him, I'm a dead man, right? Like, there's going to be some in the fan base who are like, hell yeah, bring in so-and-so, right? But I think if I'm him, the way I think is, I'm actually a little bit backed in a corner now, because I'm going to have to get the questions of, what's going to make this guy different? How's the culture going to change now? Like, all of that stuff that we'll definitely ask him. If there's a press conference at the end of the year and we'd like to introduce our new manager, blank, Joe Madden, what's the difference?
Not almost. Anyone they bring in is not going to come in with the reputation of Bob Melvin.
Correct.
That's the tough part.
Absolutely correct.
It's going to be an almost impossible sell on a new manager.
If Bob Melvin ever been fired?
Probably. Every manager, I think, is fired at some point. Probably. Was he what teams?
He started
Diamondbacks,
with
Mariners, and A's.
A's and Padres now. But here's the question. If he gets fired, season ends on Sunday. If he gets fired Monday, does he have a job by Friday? I think the answer is unequivocally yes.
Oh, yeah.
Unequivocally. I think some team would be licking their chops to get him in.
His contract was not extended after his first tenure with the Seattle Mariners, and then he went to the Diamondbacks. He was not out of a job. He went right to the Diamondbacks to become the manager of the Diamondbacks.
Yeah, I think his phone rings.
And he was fired
by the Diamondbacks.
Yeah.
Well, then ask the other question. If AJ Preller is relieved of his duties on Monday, October 1st, or whatever the date is, does he have a job by Friday of that week?
I think he has a job for sure.
Does he have is it a lateral move?
A president of baseball office? I'm not sure. I'm really not. But, I mean, he's not done. If they let him go here, he's not done
Bob Melvin
with
gets
baseball.
another manager's job. He's not going to be like bench coach.
No. I think he's a skipper. Yeah. Hey, man, it's going to be massively interesting. This piece, certainly makes it even more so. But again, not the first time we've seen this. Not the first time we've heard about
How
stuff
much
like
input should the players have in all of this? None? Lots? I mean, what do you think Manny thinks? I think he's a pretty big fan of AJ Preller, hasn't he been?
Yeah.
For the most part in his career?
Wouldn't you be?
Yeah. I mean, Xander Bogaerts probably pretty happy with AJ
Jake
Preller.
Cronenworth is the biggest AJ Preller fan.
Fernando
Tatis Jr. certainly has no reason to complain about AJ Preller.
Yeah.
Drew Pomeranz, big AJ Preller guy.
I mean, Juan Soto's the only one that's
idea.
like, how come I haven't got mine? I mean, he's the only one who can say to AJ hasn't treated him, pristinely when it comes to contract negotiations, things like that. You Darvish? Yeah, big
Elated.
thumbs up for AJ Preller. Joe Musgrove? Thumbs up for AJ Preller.
Ha-Seong Kim? I'll let you know.
Yeah, exactly.
So
the players, generally, I would say, are in AJ's corner. The players are certainly in Bob's corner. It's weird. And yet we're talking about making major changes because the fans, we're not necessarily in any of their corners right now.
No, it's tough. It's really tough. It's been a tough year. I don't know. I don't know what the timeline is. I mean, based on the statement that we saw from Peter yesterday, he's on the road to recovery, and again, he is where he needs to be. But, once he's feeling better and up to it, he's going to have to, internally at least, sit down and say, hey, man, like, if I were him, after I felt better, I'd be like, what can we do? What can we do? What are you willing to look at yourself? Are we willing to get in a room with Bob? What do we think is the best direction forward? I will say this, Benny, it's going to be a really tough sell for me if Bob Melvin's not here next year. No matter who it is, it's going to be a really tough sell. You can take some getting over. Will I ever give that manager a fair shake? I don't know. That's how much I respect and like Bob Melvin.
I don't know that that's the case. I mean, someone's going to be managing the Padres next year. Probably you'll end up somewhat liking them. I mean,
Sure.
You don't get to this point in being a manager of any team without some charisma and some baseball know-how, and you'll get you fired up a little bit.
Andy Green gets fired up.
But you'll, for the first day or two.
Go call another call wrong, Joe.
But you will
Bob,
always
Joe.
compare the next manager to Bob Melvin. And it's going to be tough unless he wins right away. And, to a fairly large degree, you're going to go, how is this better than the guy we had before, who had the steady hand,
That's
who had
what
the
I
respect
mean.
of everybody?
That's what I mean.
How is it better?
By a fair shake. It's going to be hard not to criticize, but we'll see what happens, man. Should be an interesting day here on the Fan. Coach is going to talk about
I don't
this.
think that person exists. That just is a unanimous slam dunk. That's the right move.
Yeah.
I don't
No,
think
but it's baseball, so you could bring. I mean, you can bring Paul to manage, and if they win 98 games under Paul next
Paul's
year,
a genius.
He may not know anything.
You can do a lot
but that
worse
would
than
also-
Paul Reindl.
That would
right?
also be unanimously hated. As
It would, but it doesn't
Can you
mean
imagine
you won't
your
win.
press conference? I don't really know what I'm doing up here, but for some
Be the first
reason,
manager with a drop board in the dugout to fire up his player.
he just got no idea.
managed a lot of games in my head.
Yeah, I managed a
motivational
ton of
sound
games.
drops.
Ton of
is the
games
I
in
got
my
like a
head.
900 winning percentage at the freshman high school baseball level.
I mean, that speaks for something, Paulie.
All right, before we go, Talk Saves Lives. Join us for Odyssey's I'm Listening special. It is coming up tomorrow. 2-hour national mental health conversation at 7 p.m. Hear from some of the biggest names in music and sports, and of course, your stories as well. Join us for a constructive and supportive conversation about mental wellness here on 97.3 The Fan and the free Odyssey app. Remember, Talk saves lives. More talk next with the Coach John Quintero. We'll be back tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. For Paul Reindl, Stephen Woods, I'm Ben Higgins. Have a great rest of your Tuesday from all of us here at The Fan.